opportunities that they need to explore.
Speaking at his annual Super Bowl news conference, Goodell said building that new stadium in Arlington Heights or elsewhere is a great opportunity.
The good news is they've got quite a bit of time on their lease. The Bears are committed to being in Chicagoland. I talked to the mayor of Chicago recently. He wants them in the city. Arlington wants it out in Arlington. I think they'll be able to develop a proposal that will be good for the fans, but I also think it'll be great for Chicago.
Negotiations with Arlington Heights on a Bears-owned property over taxes and other issues continues. It's 5:06. The news is a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. You can now enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy247.com. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Do relationships today seem harder than ever? In the world of IT management and infrastructure, what if you had a business partner that thinks like you, is easy to work with, and just seems to get it? MS Consulting Services has been doing this for 25 years. But don't listen to us, listen to some actual customers.
This is Bruno. I work for a medical software company. Being in this field, trust is very important. MS Consulting has been my trusted partner for almost 20 years. They are experienced, dependable, and honest. They do not try to oversell. They truly want to help and are willing to go out of their way to prove it.
Hi, my name's Gary. MS Consulting Services was laser focused on understanding the needs of our business. It was a priority to them to understand the needs of our customers. They're not just helpful, they really are experts at what they do.
So if you want a relationship like this, call John at 1-800-MIT-0404. You'll be glad you did.
It's Dr. David Kolbaba.
Hey, let me tell you about our age analysis assessment. It takes just a few seconds to scan for those advanced glycated end products that cause premature aging. And then we'll briefly go over your results and give you a few things for you to do to improve. And then we'll retest you in about 60 days. And you'll pay our special low price for your first assessment, and I'll pay for your second one. That's right, your follow-up age analysis assessment is on me. And we're going to compare your biologic age with your chronologic age, and then we're going to help you determine if your biologic age is on par with your chronologic age. But you got to make that call today, not tomorrow, but today. It's our Health Quest radio hotline, 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. Second assessment free if you make that call right now. 800-794-1855. It's Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, Saturday mornings at 11.
5:09. Let's get an update on the roads. As always, Team Hochberg Traffic Center, and it is a service of Tire Track. Nearly 3,000 teen drivers die in car crashes each year. Tire Rack Street Survival, designed to save lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive. On the roads, Edens, Kennedy, Ike, Stevenson, all doing okay to start the morning. No major problems as you roll in the south suburbs on I-80 and 8094, Indiana Toll Road, off and on time. Report of a fire this morning just cropped up on Marshfield between West 152nd and 151st. Cleanup continues, but the road is closed. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In the QC Kinetics Weather Center, here's our meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies and some patchy fog in the area this morning. Otherwise, partly sunny. High today, 45. Partly cloudy with some fog late tonight, low 34. Patchy fog again tomorrow morning. Cloudy and mild, the high 53. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
32 at O'Hare, 34 Midway, 31 Aurora, 35 along the lakefront. Your next news update, 5:30. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560. The Answer.
Patients everywhere are experiencing joint pain relief thanks to QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. So how does this non-surgical approach work? QC Kinetics Medical Director Dr. Aaron Wolkoff explains.
It's like when you get a paper cut and the cells that come onto that scene first stop the bleeding, and then it recruits more cells to form new skin and new soft tissue. And then you look down a week later, 2 weeks later, and it's like nothing happened and that paper cut never existed.
In this same way, QC Kinetics uses your natural biologics to help repair and restore aching knees, hips, shoulders, and backs.
We take those same similar cells in different areas that are arthritic, are painful, and we cause this kind of internal self-healing that can resolve patients' pain.
Relief without surgery. See if you're a candidate for QC Kinetics regenerative treatments.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. Biden campaign sharpens its post-Roe message. Now, that's the headline of a recent piece in the New York Times, and we ought to look at it. The article describes how the Biden administration is pushing the abortion issue and doing it through Vice President Kamala Harris, who, quote, offered a preview of the administration's election year messaging to Americans when she visited The View. The vice president said, quote, "We're not asking anyone to abandon their personal beliefs." She went on to say the government should not be telling women what to do with their bodies. The language throughout did not refer to abortion, but rather to what she described as a woman's reproductive health. All you have to have is the insight of someone like George Orwell to know that if you can rename something, then you can change the moral dynamic. Democrats see a great opportunity to seize the abortion issue this election cycle. We must remain undaunted. We must defend every single human life, including the life of the unborn, because this is the challenge. And an election year helps to make that point abundantly clear.
This is Dennis Prager, and now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. For an hour each month, get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. I'll be answering your questions. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at Pragertopia.com. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let Attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim Attorney at Law is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
You are a creator. You've been inspired to design and craft incredible works of art. But nothing derails you like not having the right materials you need to get the project done. K&S Precision Metals prides itself on having the right metal pieces for you to be a maker. With a huge array of metal products for every part of your project, from beginning design to the finished product, K&S Precision Metals provides brass, aluminum, copper, stainless steel tubing, wire, and more. K&S Precision Metals only supplies the highest quality metal items. Each piece is pure metal with no lead or fillers. You can feel good that your project is made with metal manufactured right here in the USA. K&S Precision Metals are used by the medical and movie industries, artists, crafters, engineers, and educators. Family owned and operated in Chicago for over 76 years. Most orders are shipped within a day. Order direct at ksmetals.com. That's ksmetals.com. K&S Precision Metals. Our materials, your creations.
50 years of precision tooling. Now that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding, and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661.
Are you tired of going online every day and getting news meant to make you afraid? Or meaningless celebrity gossip fighting for your attention? Want something different? Something positive? Make your new homepage Christianity.com. With daily devotionals, answers to life's tough questions, and meaningful Bible study from favorite pastors and authors on today's current events and issues. Now you have a homepage that reflects your life and your faith. Join the thousands of others who have joined Christianity.com and experience the difference that good news can make in your life.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning because she is making her way to Gay Paris, visiting her son in France this week. How exciting. Anyway, and in for Amy is also an exciting gentleman, Charles Thomas, former ABC7 political reporter. Charles, welcome. Thank you.
And good morning, Dan. Kind of surprised to see you here this morning, but let's make a go of it.
All right. Very good. So, you know, are we beyond this yet? I mean, apparently the answer is no, but are we ever going to get beyond this, I wonder? What I'm talking about in this, what really for most of the media is BLM History Month, not Black History Month as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. But I'll let you comment on that, Charles.
Yeah.
Eric Adams, he's the mayor of New York City, don't you know?
I know.
Uh-huh. And this was, him riffing as he's wont to do at these confabs, mainly talking about himself in messianic terms and talking about his accomplishments, which mainly have to do with identity politics. Take a listen.
Stand up. They need to see you. Deputy Mayor Williams Isom, Deputy Mayor Mira Josie, Deputy Mayor Amazar, Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer. Have you ever seen this much chocolate leading the city of New York? And then go down the line. Look who's here. This is representative of the city. That's why people are hating on me. You trying to figure out why they're hating on me? They're hating on me because how many of you go to church? Ma'am, this is a Matthew 21:12 moment. Jesus walked in the temple. He saw them doing wrong in the temple. He did what? He turned the table over. I went to City Hall to turn the table over. First woman police commissioner of color. First Spanish-speaking police commissioner. First Spanish-speaking correction commissioner. Go through the line of what we're doing.
And all that being said, Jesus Adams, how's it going in New York City? Anybody want to ask that question, or would you like to answer it? They're hating on you because you hired black and brown people for significant posts in the city. So the problem in New York City is systematic racism? The same city that elected you? The same city that is dominated by your party, like, by a factor of 4 to 1, like Chicago? I mean, do we ever get beyond this hustle that Adams and, of course, BLM Brandon does the same thing, where somehow I'm accomplishing something because of the melanin content of my appointees, and the only people that don't like what I'm doing and the results they're producing are people who are racist, which would run afoul of the logic that 80% of my constituency is of my party and of the same identitarian politics. I mean, are we ever going to get past this?
Dan, it's going to be, it's going to take some time, but if I can report to you that progress is being made, that people are wising up, black people are wising up to what is being said not only in New York City, but Brandon Johnson in Chicago does it constantly. He makes himself a victim. Even though he was elected mayor of the third largest city in the country, he still makes himself a victim, and he draws on his blackness in order to make some point. But more people are getting wise to it.
Just to interrupt briefly, and then I'll let you continue. But yeah, I mean, here's of course the instant classic from BLM Brandon explaining why he couldn't go to the border with that contingent from the city council clown car.
We still have public safety that we have to address. We still have the unhoused that we have to address. I still have a budget that I have to address. And I'm doing all of that with a black wife raising 3 black children on the west side of the city of Chicago. I am going to the border as soon as possible.
Is that more difficult to do with a black wife and 3 black children as opposed to a white wife and 3 white children?
Well, when you reportedly have this reported mental health situation, the panic attacks, it can be, I guess that can be somewhat stressful. But I mean, but these guys, these guys, this is a hustle. There's no doubt about it. But what I was saying earlier is black people are getting wise to it, and they know that it is a Democrat Party play. The president of the United States, who went to Charleston a few weeks ago and talked about white supremacy, he uses it, and they use it only to black audiences because they know that it triggers them, or they think they know that it triggers them. But fewer of us are being triggered by this kind of rhetoric. And we want to see some results from our black elected officials. And we're not getting it. And slowly but certainly it's happening. It's happening everywhere. I feel it all the time. But what I see is black people, black voters are moving away slowly from the Democrat Party. The problem is the Republican Party seems not to recognize it and to begin to create a landing spot for these disenchanted black voters, particularly in state and local elections.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line if you want to chime in on this. You know, I mean, the whole chocolate leadership thing, too. I mean, every time somebody says that, an Eric Adams, a Brandon Johnson, Michael Flager, it just reminds me of Ray Nagin. You know, Chocolate City, New Orleans, and he was running the same hustle 20 years ago. Well, that was right before the city was underwater, and his leadership during that time was brought into ill repute, and he, of course, wound up in federal prison for unrelated matters. But the whole, I mean, how far do you really think you can take that? They think they can take that pretty far. I mean, I guess I could understand their perspective given that they sit in mayoralties in New York City and Chicago, the presidency, and all sorts of
Angeles,
other,
by the way.
Yeah, L.A., right, with Karen Bass and all sorts of other big posts around the country. So, I mean, to your point, it works. So why would you stop doing it?
It has worked in the past, and I can honestly say, and I think many of the polls, if you will, I'm not a big fan of polls, but they're suggesting that there's a simmering, and I mean coming to a boil, dissatisfaction with what we're getting.
And it's there's a key part of this, what you're describing is generational, isn't it?
Yes, I think older black voters are certainly the slowest to change, but even there, you're seeing a lot of disillusionment. I think in North Carolina, where Joe Biden, I know that he was the only real name on the ballot there, but it was a 4% turnout.
South Carolina, yeah, right.
A 4% turnout.
Yeah, right.
Even there, I mean, so, I see people beginning to back away from the Democrat Party. I think right now, if the election were held today, that Trump would win the 20% he needs to basically break up that 90% plus hold that Democrats have on black voters. I think that right now he could break that. All things equal.
Well, there was this focus group that MSNBC did in advance of that uneventful primary in South Carolina. Tremaine Lee did this, went to this black barbershop in Charleston, South Carolina. So this is just a focus group. This is a sliver. It's not necessarily much to extrapolate from, but it does give you a sense of diversity of viewpoint on these topics, as Charles was describing. And here was a couple of young black guys, one in particular, that's the focus of this clip, talking about Trump versus Biden, the choice this November.
There are some people in your orbit who are either voting for Donald Trump or considering it?
For sure. A lot of my friends are obviously my age, so we're a little younger. We've only voted once, for a president. And Trump is kind of all we know. And they're kind of Trump and Biden. They're like, well, we were broke with Biden. We weren't with Trump. And that's kind of the only thing that I'm hearing over and over again is that, well, Trump, we had money. Well, okay.
The other thing is that under Trump, there were no people sleeping in the airport or at police stations or the neighborhoods. There weren't hundreds of people, migrants, moving into black neighborhoods right here in Chicago. I don't know if you saw the story last week. Sun-Times did a piece. They've taken it down already. But there were 460 migrants moved into one two-block area in South Shore.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving to black neighborhoods. They aren't going to Little Village, these Spanish-speaking migrants.
Well, they're going there,
to
too.
Black neighborhoods. They're going to Auburn Gresham, Inglewood, Roseland, and as I mentioned, South Shore. And black people can see this.
Right. Well,
they see it.
We've seen the reaction from black residents of some of those neighborhoods when the city has deigned to have a community meeting on the topic, too. It hasn't been warmly received, not to mention the stories that are coming out one after the other about the city and state-funded benefits that are being provided and so forth, and this is not going unnoticed either.
Let me tell you, man, Joe Biden is doing the heavy lifting. He's doing the heavy lifting. People see it. It's right in front of them. It's one of those, you got to believe your eyes. And the people can see what's happening to their neighborhoods. They see what the migrants are getting and what they haven't gotten over these years, these many years. And they're saying, wait a minute. But again, Dan, the problem is that these disenchanted black voters, they don't have anywhere to go. They're moving away from the Democrat Party, but where do they go after that?
Well, let's pick up that conversation about where do they have to go and how much effort is being made or perceived to have been made by the Republican Party to take advantage of this opportunity you see. We'll also take your calls. I see we've got a lot of people waiting to talk, so we'll do that at 5:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Charles, thank you. Good morning, everyone. At 5:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Shock this morning in Nashville and among country music fans at the sudden death of Toby Keith, singer-songwriter, passing away overnight at the age of 62. The Oklahoma native recently diagnosed with stomach cancer. He had 60 top 40 hits like that one on the charts over 20 years in Nashville. A House vote on impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could come as early as today. The Republican-led House Rules Committee voted 8-4 to send the measure to the full House for a vote. U.S. airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria have likely resulted in casualties. That, according to Pentagon spokesman Major General Pat Ryder, who told reporters Monday Central Command is continuing its assessment. The Maui Police Department has released its first probe into the wildfires that broke out on the island in Hawaii in August. Fires destroyed historic Lahaina and responsible for the deaths of over 100. The report found emergency dispatch was overwhelmed by call volume with wind and flames, leaving Lahaina without cellular or any Wi-Fi capacity. The family of a man shot and killed by police in suburban Carroll Stream, demanding to see body camera footage of the confrontation that led to the death of their uncle and brother.
Isaac Goodlow, a 30-year-old black man, was shot and unjustifiably killed by the Carroll Stream police officers.
The attorney for Isaac Goodlow's family is Andrew Stroh. Chicago Children's Hospital has been forced to take its networks offline after an unspecified cyber attack. Access to medical records and communication by phone or email has been limited since last week for Lurie Children's Hospital. Waukegan residents sounding off after a local hospital had its Level 2 Trauma Center designation revoked. Last night's City Council meeting, some residents expressed concern about the loss of services at Vista Medical Center East. Mayor Ann Taylor.
I want to have communication with that hospital, and I want to hear from them. That's the thing that's been lacking, is the communication.
The Level 2 trauma designation may have been stripped by the IDPH and comes from a letter that was sent to the Waukegan's board by Lake County Coroner Jennifer Bannock, who was denied a spot on the Vista Hospital board. Bulls look to get back in the win column tonight when they host Minnesota at the UC. Blackhawks gearing up for the Wild tomorrow night. There's word from Blackhawk camp that Connor Bedard may skate this week with the club, non-contact drills only, as he recovers from his broken jaw. College basketball tonight, DePaul and St. John's, and Northern Illinois takes on Miami in the MAC. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. Around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy, 247.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Would you go to court without a lawyer when the other guy is lawyered up? Or are you going to go it alone and learn law and procedure as you go? When you have an insurance claim for your home or business, it's the same thing.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company.
Insurance companies will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them. Not you.
If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%, and we could do the same for you. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Their U.S.-based restoration specialists are dedicated to helping solve identity theft issues, and all plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which means if you lose money because of identity theft, LifeLock will reimburse you to the limits of your plan. Go to LifeLock.com and save up to 25% your first year with promo code CLAY.
What does it feel like to file with TaxSlayer and get your guaranteed maximum refund? It feels like the last level of a video game, facing off against the final boss who stands between you and your refund.
All your refund has belonged to me.
Using the power of TaxSlayer like a secret power-up he doesn't see coming.
Only the most tax-confident can defeat me.
Throwing your laptop at his video game face and watching him crumble into a giant pile of shiny coin tax refunds.
Oh, not fair. You use TaxSlayer.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Is your IRS tax debt making you feel anxious? The professionals at Allies Tax Relief are ready to negotiate your fresh start. Call them now, 800-230-5174.
5:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. We're watching a developing situation on the south side of Chicago, 94th and Stony Island, far south side, Calumet Heights neighborhood. It's a reported shooting being investigated that may involve an off-duty Chicago police officer. We're keeping our eyes on that. Meantime, in Burbank, 82nd and Lindner, the intersection is still closed down after a structure fire and investigation. The fire is out. Bishop Ford showing up with delays early. 115th into the Ryan merge, and the Ryan already 15 minutes. 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy with fog this morning, and then sun and clouds for the afternoon. A high of 45. Patchy clouds, late night fog, and 34 overnight. 32 at O'Hare, 34 Midway, 31 in Aurora. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning is Charles Thomas, former ABC7 political reporter.
Yo.
And radio talk show host. And we were talking about this hustle that big city black mayors like Eric Adams and BLM Brandon Johnson, as well as a big guy in Washington, D.C. named Joe Biden. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That guy.
Your white supremacists are the ones you should be looking out for.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not the 17-year-old carjacker who happens to look like black people, but the white supremacists. You know, the guy in the pickup truck. And
well, yeah. Well, but that
decal
but that,
on the back.
You know, those guys who beat up that woman in Jefferson Park. That video that's been going viral. Well, that's still the fault of the honky. That's still Trump's fault. It's the fault of white supremacists. So even when white supremacists aren't directly committing crimes, they're still indirectly responsible for all crimes that are committed because everything is structurally racist, you see.
Systemic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. That's how it goes. And so Eric Adams recently gave us another tour de force where he is Jesus Christ, and he is touting the chocolate leadership of the city of New York, and that eliminates the need to actually assess how that leadership is performing for the residents of New York, which, according to what we've seen and the polling that is publicly available, there's a bit of a disconnect there, much like there is in Chicago. But hey, we ended the conversation talking about what the Republican Party is or is not doing to seize this opportunity of Black Americans, maybe more young black men than younger black men than older black men, and certainly more men than women. But that's across all racial demographics, where young men are going versus where young women are going, opposite directions. Interesting polling on that too. Before we develop that discussion a bit more, Killer Mike is this rap star, won a couple of Grammys on Sunday night, and I guess he got in some sort of altercation because he was taken out of there in cuffs. But before that all happened, by the way, that also happened at a PBA event. I don't know if you saw this professional bowling event. Feds showed up and arrested a professional bowler. I think he's out of Ohio or something, in the middle of the contest, the tournament. Really interesting. And apparently it's a problem, too, because this guy's got some. I mean, this guy's a problem. He's got some stalking in his background. I think they wanted him on pandering, like sexual content of a juvenile. So I don't know. People just getting pulled out of awards banquets and sporting events. Anyway, I digress. Killer Mike. Sorry for the tangent. Killer Mike was on Bill Maher a couple of days before the Grammys, and Bill Maher pressed him. You know, he gave this. Bill Maher pressed him to talk about politics. He basically said, choose the policy over the person. But Bill Maher pressed him on, okay, well, if you choose the policy over a person, then why can't you bring yourself to say, I'm supporting Joe Biden? And here's what Killer Mike said.
But you can't get yourself to say vote for Biden over Trump?
You want me to list it now? So now
I'm just saying that.
Can he get himself to apologize for the crime bill? Can he get himself to get his head out of his ass and say, black people, you are black regardless. I need you to tell me what I need to do. Can he pick a coalition of former people who are affected by drug laws, street gangs, recidivism and crime, and say, I need you as a board to advise me how to fix federal prisons? If he can do that, absolutely I can. So my challenge is out there.
All right, I'll see your Taylor Swift and I'll raise you a Killer Mike. Yeah, well, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. Sorry,
but
Charles.
He's not the only rapper. You got your 50 Cents, your Snoop Dogg, two prominent names who have also either endorsed Donald Trump or certainly have not, when asked directly, endorsed or supported or said anything positive about Joe Biden.
Well, and part of that is because of what Trump did as president. That apparently surprised them. I mean, I'm not talking about Jim Brown and Kanye West in the Oval Office. I'm talking about things like pardoning Alice Johnson and commuting the sentences of other rappers. Now, there's probably some celebrity influence, and that was interesting to Trump, because that's sort of how he's wired. But he did it regardless. The second chance legislation that he signed. So, I mean, he did some things, and they can't be ignored. And some people, rather than sort of hustling their way around them like these politicians, at least some of these celebrities are not ignoring them.
Well, and the I don't take any political counsel from celebrities.
No,
absolutely not. But, I ask people all the time. I said, what did Donald Trump do that was so racist? And they can't answer me.
Right.
They can't tell me one thing. They say, oh, he's a racist. And, oh, he's just bad. And they start talking about his character. But I said, what did he do? And they cannot answer the question. And it's a matter of triggering. They trigger black voters with this talk, the race hustle. They bring up race, as we heard Eric Adams do this morning, as we heard Brandon Johnson do about his black wife and black family and whatever. That's what they do. That's all they have. really to trigger black voters. But again, people are beginning to understand what it is they are doing.
Well, one other thing, too, just on this, and then take some calls, and I want to bring in the Republican piece, too. An example. I mean, this is just an ordinary resident of Oakland, California, black woman, just like basically doing a little citizen journalism here, which there needs to be more of, frankly, because you certainly can't rely on legacy media to do it, give you the reality on the ground. And this is a report that can be done in a lot of neighborhoods in urban centers all over the country, lorded over by the new Marxists like Adams, like Johnson. And you just wonder when those dots connect, what you see around you, and then you look at who has presided over the destruction that you're documenting. Take a listen.
The reason people in Oakland are seriously struggling is because there's no jobs. There's no way to get money, to make money, to pay bills. Everything that come here closes down. Dunkin' Donuts came to Oakland. Dunkin' Donuts shut down. Can't make it no more. We have the Starbucks right here. Starbucks gone, closed down, leaving Oakland. Can't make it here no more. We just got this Raising Cane's restaurant over here. They had to close down the inside. Gone. Can't open no more. Almost every business that opens up in Oakland closes. Businesses closed. Everything closed. Next to Chipotle closed. In-N-Out Burger on the other side of this used to be a Walmart. We don't even have a Walmart in Oakland. You know you ain't got no jobs if you don't got no Walmart in your city. You know your city's struggling if you don't got no Walmart. Walmart closed down. Walmart could not survive Oakland. Oakland is a hard place to survive. We got In-N-Out Burger right there on the other side, ready to close down, and I'm pretty sure Panda went after that. Next to T-Mobile and Chipotle, the little restaurant in there closed. The little restaurants across the street you can't see in them parking lots closed. All these big old buildings, big giant buildings, empty.
Right. And so why? Why are they all gone? They came to open a business and they said, we can't do business here because they're white supremacists? Is that why?
You know, as I mentioned earlier, that people are triggered by the race game. You say race, you say you go to the race hustle, and suddenly you caught the attention of black voters, most of them. But again, an increasing number. I mean, the Bidenomics / inflation, the immigration, the migrant situation, the out-of-control crime, and, of course, Joe Biden and his wars. People are moving away. They're moving to the middle. Joe Biden, no way he gets the 92% of the black vote anymore. But the Republican Party, what are they doing? I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later, but what are they doing to cultivate this dynamic to their benefit?
You're definitely going to have another moment on the trail, or moments, plural, on the trail with Trump that says, what have you got to lose, like he did in Charlotte just days before the 2016 election, to a largely black audience. I mean, so he's a few days before the election, he's in a swing state talking to a largely black audience, and he's, what have you got to lose? How's it going?
But Dan, now it's what have you got to gain?
Well, I understand. So my point is to now fast forward 8 years, and so what do you think that needs to look like? I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric. There has been some campaign cash spilled, even in Illinois. But what does that look like to close the deal with the those who have the mindset of a killer Mike? I got all these problems. I'm not saying no to Biden, and I'm not saying yes to Trump, but I got all these problems with Biden. So how do you get killer Mike and people that are of that mindset to say yes to Trump?
I think I think they will say yes to Trump, but Trump is Trump, and that's the presidential. But I'm thinking about state and local elections as well.
Okay.
What I've said to you, and I think I've said it to you before, that before you move black voters to the Republican Party, you got to move them off the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And they're coming off. Joe Biden, again, is doing the heavy lifting there with all of his missteps and horrible policies, both domestic and foreign. But what are we doing to cultivate those lost people that may be 20, 25% of the black vote? What are they doing in places like Philadelphia and Detroit, those swing states where the Republican Party lost by so little? What are they doing to make sure that those people who abandoned Biden don't go back to Biden or come over to the Republican Party?
What should they be doing?
Well,
other than like Red Rover, come over.
No, well, for one thing, they could begin to sponsor independent thinking seminars. Maybe even, I mean, this is down the road perhaps, but a black Republican, a black political party, something in the middle. Give it some structure. Begin to move on that in order to separate black voters from the Democrat Party. That's job one in this reporter's analysis.
But let me ask. So, but that needs to be that can't be an independent political party that actually put up candidates under an independent name. That couldn't be sponsored by the Republican Party. Otherwise, it would you'd see the strings.
Exactly.
So you're talking about something that has to be, indigenous to the black community, and you have some independent leaders that say, I want to form a party, sort of a la Cornel West, but more sane. And then younger people in urban centers, that young professionals like we've talked about before, actually. So if there are people that like that you sponsor, and then you could generate support for that party, but it's got to come from the ground up, not the top down from the Republican Party, right?
Well, no, it can't. I mean, you've got to do what you can to, cover your tracks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I see the Republican Party every year, particularly here in Illinois, which is your classic flyover state. They'll spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in Illinois on TV commercials. And so, but what if you took some of that money, some of those resources, and you began to do organizing in the black community, give people a place to go, maybe even do some ads with people complaining about the Democrat Party and what it has not done for black people in Chicago or in Philadelphia or in Detroit or Atlanta. In other words, give this complaint, air the complaint, air the problem. Make sure that people understand what the problem is.
But I mean, and I understand this is not going to be a one-off. It's not, you're not going to, hit a home run your first at bat. But I mean, like Beverly Miles ran against Pritzker last go around, and she didn't get that much attention. She didn't get that much support. She did a commercial for My PAC in the general election, platformed her to re-air her grievances, the same grievances she had in the primary, so didn't invent anything. And, it's just dutifully ignored, including by all of those black independent thinkers that are supposedly out there looking for something.
Well, I mean, but it was in the context of an election. I don't think it needs to be in the context of an election. It needs to be I want to see and hear some black folks talking about this problem with the Democrat Party. I want to see and hear them doing it. They need support to do that, particularly in the media. They need support to do that. Can you imagine what that would look like? The Democrats, what are they going to do? How are they going to? What's the comeback? Because they are not accustomed to doing anything for their black voters. They take them for granted, and they'll do, they'll just say, hey, we don't have to worry about that. We got the black vote.
Right.
I've heard major candidates say that. Why should I why should I spend any money on the black vote after the primary? Democrats say that. That's what they believe.
Of course.
And they don't. And they don't do anything once they're elected for black voters. And I'm talking about black election winners as well as white ones or any race. the black vote is taken for granted. How many times have we heard that? But
because it's true.
It's true, but we need to actually have people articulate what the problem is. I remember going back to the Darren Bailey election when I was doing ads.
22, right.
The ad that resonated most with black folks was the one when I pointed out that they created this cannabis industry out of whole cloth and did not include one black cannabis dispensary. That resonated. People, oh, really? Yeah, think about that. Yeah, they surely didn't. And you can do the same thing now when you can point out that these migrants are moving into black communities. That's where they're going. They're not going to Andersonville, Roscoe Village, or West Loop. They're going to places where the rents are lowest, the black community. And they're going to be moving people out of the black community. People are watching their neighborhoods go away right now. They're seeing it. Articulate that. Let people know that. But the media is so corrupt that the mainstream media, that is, they won't tell those stories because they know that would be upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah, it would jeopardize, jeopardize their employers, the de facto employers.
Absolutely.
Greg in Jefferson Park, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Charles, always a treat to have you. A couple things. One is wait till Chicago's getting their properties reassessed this year. Wait till those communities, the south and west sides, get sledgehammered with increases to pay for all these illegals. Okay, they're going to end up like Dalton and Harvey, huge property taxes and no values in their buildings. And secondly, I think it was last week on ABC News, your former employer, I think it was Leah Hope, the hack with a rack, talking to these black women who are business owners and that have all, they've been raped, they've been robbed, they've been carjacked, and so on and so forth. And, she had this thing, and they're talking about how blacks are disproportionately, the black women are disproportionately, have crime against them. But they won't talk about who the hell the criminals are.
Oh, man. I went through this on podcast.
Thanks for the call, Greg.
That I do. And that was Dorothy Tucker at CBS 2 who did that piece. And she talked about how black women are disproportionately victimized by crime. And I even brought it up in the past. I said, well, the people who are committing the crimes against them are young black males. The very people, the very young boys they're trying to raise on their own as single mothers. And man, I mean, they gave it to me all barrels. Oh, you're anti-black. No, I said, I'm telling you the truth. The people victimizing black women are their own children. Those are the ones who are doing it. And that goes to another issue, which I think the Republican Party could do well to sponsor, which is restoring the black family, calling out this whole baby mama, baby daddy culture that has evolved over the last 50 years in the black community. Somebody's got to call it out. Somebody's got to underwrite this effort. And I think it would do well for the Republican Party to take a role in that. But we don't see them doing anything.
Well, maybe if Tim Scott's the VP nominee, that flag can get advanced. All right, coming up at 7:07, we'll turn our 6:06. We'll turn our attention back to that Senate immigration bill. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Possible record-breaking warm weather this week here in Chicago. Family of a man shot and killed by Carroll Stream police want to see the video. WIND Chicago News Time is 6 o'clock.
The legendary country voice has gone silent. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I should have been a cowboy.
Toby Keith has died of cancer. He was a country star for decades. That was his debut single. This was another of his 20 number one country hits.
Whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.
Well, Fox's Todd Pyro has more on the cause of death.
Back in June 2022, Keith revealing he'd been battling stomach cancer for the last 6 months and was receiving chemo, radiation, and surgery. And he posted this video just days ago about the first song he ever wrote.
First song I ever wrote, I was 14 or 15 years old.
It was called If You're Handing Out a Heartache. It wasn't bad. It was structured right, but it wasn't very good either.
Toby Keith was 62, and he died hours after news broke that Britain's King Charles has cancer.
It was during the King's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement. The doctors found this separate issue. Buckingham Palace says King Charles III has already started regular treatments and will postpone public-facing duties.
Fox's Alex Hogan in London. The House plans to vote today as Republicans push to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over record illegal immigration. Congressman Tom Emmer just told Fox
he has willfully refused to enforce our federal laws to secure our southern border. In fact, he's instructed his subordinates not to enforce the laws.
Democrats call it a sham, and Mayorkas will not be removed by the Senate. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's in Egypt amid a push for a new ceasefire in Gaza. California's gotten drenched.
The water continues to run down slope. Some rain gauges here in the Los Angeles area measuring nearly a foot of rain over the past couple of days.
In addition to the flooding that's caused, Fox Weather's Max Gordon has seen
mudslides destroying homes. In all, in Los Angeles, 307 mudslides have been reported.
3 people have been killed in Northern California. America's listening to Fox News.
33 degrees in Chicago, 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Mayor Brandon Johnson will give an update on the migrant crisis in Chicago this morning. Mayor has struggled to get out his message recently after reports of poor conditions at migrant shelters and community pushback on his migrant proposals. The news conference comes after an apparent closed-door meeting with the mayor, the governor, and Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. Johnson has had sharp disagreements with the governor over implementation of policies. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools will go on strike today. It comes after bargaining Monday night and over the weekend led to no progress at the privately run charter schools favoring Hispanic students. An off-duty Chicago police officer was involved in a shooting overnight in the Calumet Heights neighborhood. According to the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, the incident occurred near the 9400 block of South Stony Island. The family of a man shot and killed by police in Carroll Stream are demanding to see body camera footage of the confrontation that led to the death of their uncle and brother.
Isaac Goodlow, a 30-year-old black man, was shot and unjustifiably killed by the Carroll Stream police officers.
The attorney for Isaac Goodlow's family, Andrew Stroh, claims he was unarmed at the time of the incident over the weekend at the Village Brook Apartments.
Isaac was suffering some form of mental health crisis. What he was calling for was help, not to be shot by the police.
Police and the Public Integrity Unit of DuPage County are investigating. Chicago Children's Hospital has been forced to take its networks completely offline after an unspecified cyber attack. Access to medical records and communication by phone or email has been limited since the middle of last week at Lurie Children's Hospital. Bulls take on the Timberwolves tonight. The Blackhawks gearing up for the Wild tomorrow. College basketball tonight, DePaul visiting St. John's, and NIU has Miami of Ohio in the MAC. The news, a service of the AM 560 store, T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of consumer cellular single line 5 gigabyte data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of consumer cellular single line 5 gigabyte data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? Well, you need to call QC Kinetics. Hi, it's Amy Jacobson. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids, cortisone shots, surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Well, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and independence. Walk and run, play and live. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. New locations, folks, in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads from our team Hochberg Traffic Center. South Barrington report of an accident. Barrington Road and Algonquin Road this morning. Downers Grove an accident. Highland and Butterfield. Willowbrook an accident. 63rd and Clarendon Hills Road. Tri-State overturned semi. We're just getting word of this accident. Looks like 4 lanes are blocked. Traffic is only squeezing by on the right-hand shoulder. This is southbound on the Tri-State between Russell Road to right before Route 173, Rosecrans Road. Big delays early this morning on the north end of the southbound Tri-State. Stevenson inbound already seeing delays, flashing brake lights central to Kenzie, 30 minutes into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Here's Steve Williams.
Clouds and some patchy fog this morning, partly sunny by the afternoon. A high today 45, partly cloudy, some fog late tonight, low 34. Fog again tomorrow, cloudy and mild, the high tomorrow 53. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
At 6:09, it's time to call Permaseal, 800-421-SCAL, 33 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, Senator Jim Lankford on the Republican side, the co-negotiator of this Senate immigration bill that we spent a significant portion of the morning yesterday discussing. He was making the rounds on Monday on the talkies to flack for his legislation, unsurprisingly. So was Senate Majority Leader Pagliacci Schumer. It's interesting, something that I saw very consistently throughout the comments both gentlemen made. And boy, if Jim Lankford and Chuck Schumer are saying some of the same things, then I think that enough is reason to be suspect of Lankford and this legislation. But even setting that aside, what they both consistently did is take the high hat to opponents, take the high hat to criticisms, rather than saying, no, people have it wrong, and let me tell you how this is going to be more effective. Let me going to tell you how this is going to address the concerns of people on border security. No, instead of doing that, they did things like this. Jim Lankford on with Jake Tapper and CNN reacting to Elon Musk's claim about the program here is to get as many people in this country illegally and take advantage of the opportunities for illegals to vote in the 2024 election, which we spent a lot of time last week talking about, which we have discussed in detail the law that provides these opportunities. If you want a commentary on that Cleta Mitchell, the election attorney memo that we discussed last week, I wrote one that's up at amgreatness.com, American Greatness. So here's Jim Lankford. Here's the approach that he took. This alone would solidify my no vote, as if it needed more solidifying.
Here's a claim being circulated on Twitter or X by Elon Musk, who posted, quote, the long-term goal of the so-called border security bill is enabling illegals to vote. It will do the total opposite of securing the border, unquote. Now, I know that Elon Musk is not an expert on illegal immigration or the border, but he has a huge megaphone.
He does.
Explain what he's talking about here. Is he wrong?
Well, I think he needs to go back to doing the 2 million Teslas that are currently being recalled right now to be able to focus in on that. No, it's not focused on trying to be able to get more illegals to vote. That's absurd in the process on it. It is against the law for anyone that is not a citizen of the United States to be able to vote in the United States in any federal election. That remains so.
Yeah, so again, you have to take the shot at Musk and Tesla. So he should focus on this and stay out of this. You can walk and chew gum. Mm-hmm. And yes, we understand what the federal law says, but if Jim Lankford were a sophisticated thinker on this and actually trying to persuade anybody, he would say, well, let me tell you something, Jake. It is against federal law and for a non-citizen to vote. But there's also the these federal statutes like the National Voter Registration Act and like the act that governs overseas voting and the move afoot in jurisdictions like Evanston, Illinois, to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections and legislation pending in the state of Illinois that would allow non-citizens to vote in school board elections statewide. And so there is a real concern here. Now, unfortunately, we didn't address that for whatever reason. We couldn't address that because we couldn't come to agreement on it, because this is something that we should just alert the states about, and the states need to focus in on interdicting this possibility. But instead of doing that, he dismissed it like there is no concern because it's against federal law for non-citizens to vote. Nothing to see here, move on. That's somebody who's not serious about addressing border security, addressing election integrity, or anything else as far as I'm concerned. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Something else he did now when he went over to Fox and Friends and was queried by Brian Kilmeade. The money that goes to these NGOs, not to mention sanctuary city jurisdictions, but the NGOs that we know are involved in suborning illegal immigration, that we know are involved in in illicit, but regardless, they're doing it anyway. You could say, oh, it's against the law. Well, they're not that interested in the rule of law. They're interested in a particular outcome in November. But Jim Lankford doesn't want to get hip to that. You know, the blind mice routine. NGOs that are that have voter registration programs going. What do we know? Did Jim Lankford ask the question that Cleta Mitchell asked in her memo? DHS is demanding that their people encounter that their people register. Contact everyone who comes into this country. Do we have any reason to believe that DHS is not moving people that their people come in contact with to voter rolls? It's a question. It's a question Cleta Mitchell asked because there's an opportunity to do so, and she understands the law. So give me an answer. I don't know what the answer is, but give me the answer. But ask the question and give me the answer. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's put people on notice about it. No, Jim Lankford doesn't want to do that.
Let's talk about the NGOs, the Catholic charities. They get huge money to house and provide accommodations to illegal aliens who are trying to get into this country. You put $1.4 billion into this. That is an area in which I know Republicans are upset about. Can you want to expand on that?
Yeah, it is interesting. I have some folks that are upset about trying to get humanitarian aid to people that are struggling on it. I get that. We want to be able to, we're Americans, we provide food and water to people and don't just leave them in the desert to be able to die. But I would also say that aid is also attached to our beds. So here's how we attach these two things together. So to be able to get that economic assistance actually got out, that means the Biden administration, before that assistance goes out at the end of it, that means they've got to add more deportation flights. They've got to add more detention beds. They've got to add more ICE officers. They have to add more Border Patrol officers. Right. They have to actually implement these things before those final dollars go out. So those things are attached. That's actually a forcing mechanism to say, you want those dollars to go out, you got to actually start deporting people.
So here's what.
Yeah. We believe in humanitarian aid. We don't want people starving to death. Are they starving to death now? Are people coming across the border or coming to the border, are they starving to death? I haven't heard those reports. Could you provide some more detail, Senator Lankford? So the only thing that's preventing them from starving to death is this additional $1.5 billion that's in your legislation. Is that what you're telling us? Is that a credible statement? And that whole triggering business, if you want this aid, then you have to, then the federal government has to have these, make these deportation commitments and implement them. Right. Money on the front end, implementation on the back end. How does that normally work at the federal level, Senator Lankford? Yeah. Have you ever seen in the federal government where the money comes on the front end, the implementation is supposed to happen with the money, and the money is spent, the implementation never happens, nobody ever does sort of an after-action report to assess the actual outcome of the programs they funded, and the problem with the lack of implementation, when somebody does get around to looking at it, is, the program wasn't big enough. We need more money on the front end. I mean, talk about running scams that we've seen over and over and over again for as long as I've been on the planet. And this certainly predates me because there's nothing new in politics.
Business as usual.
I mean, this Lankford, the supposedly conservative senator from Oklahoma, this guy is wittingly or unwittingly flacking for open borders. There's nothing about this Senate immigration bill that makes sense. And that was just confirmed by what Lankford did yesterday. You expect what you're going to hear from Senator Pagliacci, the majority leader. Mm-hmm. But from Lankford, flacking for McConnell, flacking for, I don't know, a handful, maybe more. I mean, we had 20 Republican senators vote for that absurd backdoor Green New Deal, quote-unquote, infrastructure bill. So maybe there's 24 still in the Senate that are getting wooed by this or have ulterior motives that have nothing to do with border security. That's a real possibility, too. But, I mean, this talk about getting shined on. That's Jim Lankford yesterday on the talk shows. Those are embarrassing answers he gave. And they basically show his hand without showing it. Terrible poker player. Terrible messenger, too, by the way. I don't know, how these guys get elected in places like Oklahoma and I'm not questioning this because he's a Christian gentleman and he carries himself, very well. And I'm sure he does live his Christian faith and I'm sure he's a good family man and all those things. I'll stipulate to all that. And what did Killer Mike say last hour? The policy, not the person. He's got it. Killer Mike has it figured out, the rap star. Some Republicans, particularly in Oklahoma, need to have it figured out because this Jim Lankford guy's got to go. I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when this started to bubble to the surface, what they were doing in the Senate. But this performance is disqualifying. In this moment, this performance, disqualifying. Chuck Schumer had a little bit more, on Morning Joe, getting teed up by Mika. Had a little bit more indignancy for you, who would question the infinite wisdom of Jim Lankford and Chuck Schumer. You don't support this? You don't want this bill and the $60 billion for Ukraine? By the way, there was somebody made the point. Oh, Senator Mike Lee, $60 billion more for Ukraine. Senator Mike Lee from Utah. Just by way of order of magnitude, the budget for the U.S. Marines is $53 billion. The budget for our Marines is $53. We're sending $60 more to Ukraine under this proposal. And Chuck Schumer says, if you don't sign on, well, guess what? Then your boys are going to Eastern Europe. How's that for a threat?
Look, it took a long time, 4 months of arduous negotiations. They fell off the tracks a whole bunch of times. I had to be on the phone even at midnight saying, we've got to keep going. Why? We're at a turning point in America. This bill is crucial, and history will look back on it and say, did America fail itself? Why is it crucial? Well, if we don't aid Ukraine, Putin will walk all over Ukraine. We will lose the war, and we could be fighting in Eastern Europe in a NATO ally in a few years. Americans won't like that.
Yeah. So you sure you don't want to green light the $60 billion? Otherwise, we're going to put troops on the ground in a couple years. This probably is not going to happen because I'm not at all convinced that Putin's revanchinism extends beyond Ukraine into the Baltics or Scandinavia, as some have predicted. But just to even insinuate that is the typical refuge of a scoundrel like Chuck Schumer. That this is how they're playing it. They're not making a case on the merits. They're saying, do this or else, or they're hi-hatting you like you got from Jim Lankford about legitimate concerns. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. And Charles, you'll love this. Even the unreverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC, he interviewed Chris Murphy, the Democrat socialist, one of the new Marxists from Connecticut, who was also part of this negotiation to cobble together this Senate immigration bill. Listen to how Sharpton went at Chris Murphy. Now, this is, again, Sharpton saying, Chris Murphy, can't you do this in order to bully senators to vote for this legislation? But still, listen to how he characterized the immigration problem.
But the border, we're looking every day at the invasion of migrants, and they're playing a time game with politics on this. Couldn't that pressure put to bear in their home states?
I'm sorry, did Al Sharpton use the I word?
He used the I word, and I think Al is trying to move back toward the middle, his constituency, of what he perceives to be his constituency. He knows that black folks in particular are the most outraged by what's happening at the border because their communities are being affected more than any other communities, and they look at these resources that are suddenly available for non-U.S. citizens, and black folks are outraged by this. And Al's trying to hold on to his constituency because people are looking at Al and saying, hey, what's up, Al? Are you, you know what I mean? This is a political game going on in Al's head. Al is basically on the bubble right now, as many others of the race hustlers are on the bubble right now, particularly among young black male voters who see right through this.
Roger in DeKalb, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, love your show here.
Thank you.
So these politicians, I'm a Christian conservative voter. I haven't called myself a Republican in a long time for lots of reasons, but they seem to forget the Bible and the teachings of the Bible, that you're supposed to obey the laws of your own land first if it's not like genocidal. And like you say, these people coming across the border, they don't look like they're starving. They're coming here for jobs. Everyone says it. Why can't we as a country say, we cut off all the aid to your countries if you don't stop this flow? I mean, they act like there's nothing they can do. It's like, hey, if we're going to take your people in, then that money should go here to support those people. You know, why are we paying it both ways? It's maddening. And then the Wall Street Journal editorial board is all in on this plan.
Yeah,
what's happened with them?
Totally wrong. Thanks for the call, Roger. No, that's right. At best, they're economic migrants, right? And there are a lot of them. And at best, and I understand it, but that is not a legitimate claim under our asylum laws. Just as simple as that. At best, they are. At worst, they're the young men who beat up those cops in New York City. And there are literally hundreds and hundreds of instances in just Chicago and New York about crime committed by people who shouldn't be in this country. And yet you can't get certain Congress humans, including some of our own, to say that people who were part of the Hamas attack on October 7th should not be allowed in this country. You can't get most of the Illinois delegation to say people who commit Social Security fraud while in this country, non-citizens, should not be allowed to stay. There's legislation that they get DUIs. You can't get certain legislators who form the base of the new Marxist Party, the Democrats, to vote for that. I mean, does that signal anything to people, for goodness sakes? Jordan in Forest Park.
You know, I think that the Republicans should be talking about the figure 25 million, not 5,000 a day. 5,000 a day is 1.8 million a year. So this bill, after 10 years, will allow, basically, under the Biden administration and 10 years forward, 25 million that will be here as per this bill, and which dovetails into your first hour of your show today. That's roughly half of the African American population in the U.S.
Yeah,
Thanks
for the call, Jordan.
That is the African American population in this country. I mean, because keep in mind the African American population in this country, they say it's about 40 million. Well,
Right.
keep in mind that if you have one drop of black blood in you, you're black under American
right.
societal standards. I think there should be a mixed race category out there. And if there is ever a mixed race category out there, you're going to find that African American population to go below what it is now, significantly below. And 25 million, you basically are replacing black people. And those are the dots that black voters have to connect. We are being replaced.
Bob and Wilmette.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Charles. Equally as nauseating as Jim Langford's assessment of Elon Musk's statement was the glorified newsreader Jake Tapper setting it up with, I know Elon Musk is no expert on the border wall. Come on.
Right.
You don't need an expert. Who is? You see for your own eyes these people are coming across, getting free stuff by the millions. What sort of expertise do you need to have? Don't insult us with that.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Bob. Great point. Yeah, hey, Bob, come on. Let's leave it to the experts. let's leave it to the border security experts employed by CNN and elected from Oklahoma. These are experts. These are people who've spent their lives studying migratory patterns and best ways to provide a secure border. And the experts. Complete punchline. Absolutely right. Dan and Charles Thomas in for Amy J., Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I ran this by my doctor. I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes. She said, this is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking Balance of Nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry! This is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, it's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6:36, we'll talk a little bit more about secure elections. Also, a bit of a postmortem on the DeSantis candidacy because he ran the super PAC supporting DeSantis. Former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli joins us to discuss both. 6:36. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Charles, good morning. 6:32. Country music superstar Toby Keith died overnight. The 62-year-old died peacefully, according to his family, surrounded by them, according to messages on social media platforms. One of his 20 number one hits over a 20-year Nashville career, this song.
We'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, singing, whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.
Sang that song with Willie Nelson. Keith was diagnosed with stomach cancer not too long ago, have been undergoing radiation and chemotherapy and surgery for that stomach cancer. House vote on impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could come as early as today. Chairman Tom Cole is sending that measure to the full House after a committee vote.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk will report the total.
8 yeas, 4 nays.
And the ayes have it.
Cole referring to Mayorkas as a principal architect of the border crisis. Nevada set to hold one of the more confusing presidential contests this week. The state will hold a Republican presidential primary today and a Republican Party-run caucus on Thursday. This after the Democrat governor at the time in 2021 and Republicans started fighting over scheduling and procedures. U.S. airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria likely resulted in casualties.
The number of casualties is still being assessed.
That's what Pentagon spokesman Major General Pat Ryder told reporters last night. However, Central Command is assessing its strikes against more than 80 targets. Mayor Brandon Johnson is expected to give an update on the migrant crisis in Chicago this morning. The news conference comes after closed-door meetings with the mayor, the governor, who has had sharp disagreements with Johnson over implementation of policies, and Mayor Johnson's political patron, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools, the Instituto Health Science Academy and the Instituto Justice and Leadership Academy, have walked off the job after bargaining last night and over the weekend. Led to no progress at the privately run charter schools. Chicago sports, Bulls look to get back in the win column when they host the Timberwolves at the UC later on tonight. College hoops tonight, DePaul visiting St. John's. The news, a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The Joe Biden administration is truly the administration for the rats, the thieves, the cartel members, the gangbangers. They're having the time of their life, and they're making more money than ever before. When a politician, salesman, or a gypsy of any kind tells you, I'll be honest with you, that's when you know they're lying. When one of these Ukrainian overlords in a $6,000 suit tells you we don't steal the money, it's pretty much a confession of him stealing the money.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Retirement Outlook.
If your retirement account is mostly stocks or bonds, listen closely. The future of your savings may be more uncertain than ever before. Hi, I'm Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals. The sad truth is, our government continues to eat away at our freedoms and security. In economic times like these, run around the flagpole by lunatics in Washington, I look to the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver that you own. At Colonial Metals, we specialize in helping folks with IRAs and 401ks and other retirement accounts move their savings into physical gold and silver. If you'd like a free gold investment kit, give us a call today at 820-800-8000. My team is standing by ready to rush a free gold investment kit to you. You may also qualify for $7,500 in free silver and a free safe. Call 820-800-8000 now. That's 820-800-8000.
Colonial Metals is not a financial advisor. Consult with your advisor before investing.
That's 820-800-8000.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Route 53, an accident just reported northbound right at the Jane Addams Toll Road. Tri-State, you've got an overturned semi. 4 lanes are blocked on the southbound side. You are sneaking past right now on the right shoulder. It's southbound on the Tri-State between Russell Road to right before Rosecrans Road. Bishop Ford and I-57, heavy jams into the Ryan merge. South end of the Ryan slow, and it is 18 minutes into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Cloudy with fog this morning, especially to the far western suburbs where visibility is down to a quarter mile. See a high of 45 later today. 33 right now. Your next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning is former ABC7 political reporter Charles Thomas.
Good morning. Good to
morning.
be here.
Good
a few
to have
hours
you.
of sanity to begin
Yes,
today.
we try. We try, Charles. Thank you for contributing to that sanity. We appreciate it. A friend of mine, Dan Curry, who is a consultant with Restoration PAC, Chief Strategy Officer for Restoration for America. He's a really good messaging consultant, and I'm really, as people who listen to the show know, I'm really interested in political messaging, how you translate policy to persuasion, to votes. And he had a good piece over at American Greatness, amgreatness.com, providing an assessment, a postmortem, if you will, on Ron DeSantis' candidacy, and really challenging the premises of all of DeSantis' high-paid consultants. And then this is not being directed at our next guest, but it is being directed at some other people in DeSantis' world who I've spoken about before. Curry writes, most assume that DeSantis needed to be more aggressive in criticizing Trump, that he needed to neutralize Trump's support and pick up enough independent-minded conservatives to build his coalition. He needed to be the reasonable Trump, spend more time on liberal media outlets. Those strategies were doomed to failure. DeSantis ultimately took both of the above pieces of bad advice, and it sped his decline. Another path was preferable. DeSantis had no chance to go head on and change the minds of Trump supporters by criticizing him. He needed instead to convince Trump supporters that maybe he was even more in touch with America than Trump is. After all, Trump's main appeal is that he cuts through the layer of political BS that infects our campaigns and spells out our problems and solutions for real. That's what DeSantis did in Florida. That's how he rose to the occasion there. That's how he found success in Florida. And then, of course, actually implemented these policies, too, not just messaged them. He messaged himself out of the race, though, by not doing the same when he leveled up to the national level. Here's sort of the key, because, of course, nobody could have predicted the Trump indictments. Well, that's not true, because Trump was indicted once before DeSantis announced, and the other indictments were eminently foreseeable. But here's Curry's prescription, and I think this is on the mark. What DeSantis should have done after the Trump indictments, double down even more aggressively than the ex-president. He should have proclaimed loudly and often, America cannot tolerate such a weaponization of our justice system. He should have shouted from the rooftops about the J6 lies and persecutions, many of which victimized Florida residents. Wait, you say, wouldn't that just be reinforcing Trump's plight and message? Yes, but could he do it more precisely and effectively? He could go to war with the liberal media over these issues. Instead, DeSantis went on mainstream media outlets and was tepid on the issues conservatives strongly care about. When asked why he's running, if he agrees with Trump's messaging, he could say, I agree with Trump on the issues. I'm just a better messenger at this point. That's not what he said, messenger. What he said is, Trump failed and I will succeed. That's different. And that's the attack that he was convinced by, I guess, his consultants, and I mean, it's ultimately his decision to pursue. And of course, it backfired. Another crucial part of the strategy, he could have been equally forceful about getting to the bottom of all the COVID lies. This would have been in sharp contrast with Trump. He would have established himself as a bigger reformer of the system than Trump. You could argue the messaging path was too narrow and tricky to pull off. That's fair. However, it was his only path to victory in the primary. After all, there still remain many Republicans who are now supporting Trump, but were initially willing to give DeSantis a chance. And when they saw DeSantis on the playing field, he didn't resemble the gigantic warrior needed to take on extraordinary and unprecedented upheavals, the extraordinary and unprecedented upheavals America faces in 24. He looked like he was playing for second place, hoping Trump would succumb to the left's lawfare or would fall prey to health problems or worse. He played to lose, and he lost. I think that's a pretty good distillation. And I agree with Curry that it's fair to say it was a very narrow path. But if it was so narrow that it was impossible to traverse, then why'd you get into the race in the first place? You can't have it both ways. For more on this and then the election integrity issues that we had been discussing, and I want to pick up again, we're pleased to be joined by Ken Cuccinelli. Ken Cuccinelli is the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative and former Virginia Attorney General. And as I mentioned, he was also the head of DeSantis-aligned Super PAC, Never Back Down. Ken, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So give me your reaction to Dan Curry's distillation of Ron DeSantis' messaging.
Well, first of all, I think that the whole premise presumes that the outcome might have been different if this thing or that thing had or hadn't happened. And I would go more fundamentally and say that I and many others expected the indictments that, as you noted, were predictable to weaken Trump. And in fact, they made him bulletproof with the Republican electorate. And that basically sums up how he became the presumptive nominee, is people rallied to him really pretty personally rather than viewing the problems that were, they're at least in part self-inflicted wounds. He gave the other side stuff to shoot at him with. They way overdid it. As I would say to people, he has 3.5 BS indictments against him. The half is the documents case where they have him for lying to his own lawyers to in turn lie to a grand jury. It would appear pretty intentionally. When your own lawyers are going to have to be the witnesses against you, you're not in a great place. It's the old, the cover-up is worse than the crime. But for the purposes, that isn't going to come to trial, frankly, in my view, before the election.
Right.
So back to the analysis, I was at the Super PAC. We tested every means you can imagine of challenging the president at various degrees of aggressiveness. Now, the campaign didn't do that, so they had to operate on their own.
Right.
But what we found was that bulletproofedness. The people who say we should have been more aggressive and so forth, I'll tell you just a little anecdote. I spoke for Governor DeSantis at one of the caucuses in Iowa, and I spoke to other people who had done the same thing on Monday, January 15th, that night. And all of us encountered the same thing. The Trump voters really like Ron DeSantis. They really like him. It was always but the sentence ended with, but fill in the blank, some form of, we can't let them get this guy, meaning the left, get Trump, or we have to stick with them, or we have unfinished business, the people who viewed the election from 2020 as unfinished business and think we won, want to go back and finish it. But it was, none of it was DeSantis. And so the presumption that something, look, no, you do it. Name one thing, name anything that could have been different that would have actually changed the outcome.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it would change the outcome. That's an imponderable, and that's the point of Curry's piece too in American Greats to say I don't know if it would. Trump probably would have won anyway. But I mean, but you would have had a better chance. Is my point. There would have been more opportunity. It was the better approach. This provided almost no opportunity. But the other thing, though, too, I understand you tested all these things, but the indictments were foreseeable, as you said. One of them had actually occurred. So then wasn't, the rallying around him once he got indicted and it started to get discussed, some of these indictments, because the first one was Bragg, and it's arguably the most ridiculous one.
Oh, yeah. It was worst of them all. Yeah.
Right. So you could see the rallying around happening real time almost. So how could you then think? Then why even run? Why even run if it's obvious?
So I I was at the Super PAC, so I didn't have conversations with the governor.
Understand.
I don't speak for him or that campaign. But I think the answer to that is simply that you expect time to wear it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was rather obviously, even when it was filed, it was the worst one. And it was going to be the worst one. I mean, he literally made up a legal theory for a crime, multiplied it 34 times, and filed it as an indictment. I mean, and you notice it hasn't gone anywhere. I think a left-wing judge, because that's what I expect to have the case, will dismiss that case before trial because there is no crime there.
All right, let's leave it there because I want to get to this other piece too. I mean, now we need to look prospectively, and I know you the Election Transparency Initiative and Secure Elections, and with this situation at the border and the number of people in this country illegally, obviously this is more salient than it's ever been. This is being dismissed. We were just talking about this. Jim Langford offered a shameful performance on the talk shows yesterday in defense of this Senate immigration bill, sort of dismissing the idea of illegals voting as, don't worry about it because federal law prohibits it. Yeah, that's not quite going to be good enough. I wonder, I know there was this report out by the Honest Elections Project on steps that should be taken. And it seems to me we need to drive this conversation, not because we're going to get federal action, but because it puts states on notice to deal with this at the state level. And so with respect to some of the vulnerabilities under the National Voter Registration Act, under the legislation, the statute governing overseas elections, what is it that you say and you would press secretaries of states and governors and legislatures to, hey, you got to address this. Let's get people's attention focused on this. Let's start talking this up.
So first of all, people should know that we are far better off than we were 4 years ago. But you've nailed it. Don't look for federal solutions. That is not going to happen. Frankly, we probably don't want it to happen.
Right.
It's in the states. And I live in Virginia, where we didn't have any change in the law between the 2020 election and 2021. And the Democrats had 2 years of control where they basically rewrote the laws for Democrats. So we ran under Democrat rules and had a Republican sweep, and we secured that sweep with the recruitment and training of over 4,000 new citizens who stepped forward not to be poll watchers, but to be election officials, to actually get in and help run the election, to work those poll books, to count the votes. And it was one of those folks who spotted the biggest cheat of that election in our biggest county, Fairfax County, where they were not following our voter ID requirements for absentee ballots by the hundreds, which also led to learning that was going on in 2 other counties. And that model's being followed all over. So yes, we're working to change the laws. The HEP report looked at Zuckbucks, for example. Over half the states have now banned Zuckerbucks. These are dollars known because Mark Zuckerberg provided them in the 2020 election through nonprofits. So he got tax deductions to essentially pay government offices to do voter turnout that normally the Democrat Party would have to do. And in the last 4 years, we've gotten rid of that in over half the states, including the majority of swing states, which is obviously a big deal. So Arizona, for example, Pennsylvania, my home state of Virginia, and you notice Pennsylvania and Virginia, that had to be bipartisan, and it was. It wasn't everywhere. On Louisiana this last go-around, they had it as a ballot measure, and the voters voted for it by, I want to say, 76%. So major improvements in laws have been made, including in swing states. Georgia, rather famously, the Dems were attacking them like crazy for reforming and cleaning up their election laws, as they did in 2021. And they went back in 2022, did it again, North Carolina as well. But we saw the explosion. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, calling them Jim Crow 2.0 and so forth. And then in the 2022 midterms, what happened? The highest minority turnout ever in a midterm. And one of these universities did a survey after the election, and they're, of course, all left-wing, and found 0% dissatisfaction with the Georgia election systems among black voters, and nearly identical favorable views between black and white voters, around 73%, literally within a few tenths of a percent of one another. So the whole notion that cleaning up elections is somehow racist or hurts minorities, which I personally think should be offensive to minorities, was blown to hell in 2022. And that whole narrative was exploded by reality. And, at the Election Transparency Initiative, where I have worked for a number of years, we continue to press ahead in especially the first half of 2024 to get a few more legislative changes, cleanups, that will help secure the elections in 2024 and beyond. It's important that this not just be a presidential cycle undertaking.
Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, former Virginia Attorney General as well. Ken, thank you as always.
Yeah, good to be with you. Have a great day.
And Ken joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I ran this by my doctor. I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. Keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes. She said, this is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking Balance of Nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry! This is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, it's time for another episode of In-Depth History with Teacher Frank from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, only the history we don't know. Take it away, Frank.
Good morning. Recently, The Wizard of Oz played at some theaters to honor its 85th anniversary. Based on L. Frank Baum's book of the same name, the film is an allegory on the economic and political environment of turn-of-the-century America. As such, the character Dorothy represents traditional American values. The Scarecrow represents farmers of the time who faced deflation of crop prices. The yellow brick road, leading to Oz, or ounce, is symbolic of the deflationary gold standard of the time. The Tin Man represents the industrial workers. And the Cowardly Lion represents William Jennings Bryan, the great commoner who gave epic stem-winders like his Cross of Gold speech on how the elites just don't care about the common people. In the election of 1896, Bryan was a Democratic nominee despite internal opposition by the rhinos of his day, the Bourbon Democrats who despised this interloper from the prairies. Bryan, though, attracted large crowds to his rallies and whistle stops as he actively campaigned throughout the country. His opponent, William McKinley, famously did the exact opposite and ran a passive front porch campaign, issuing press releases from his home in Canton, Ohio. He had the better organization, too, led by the Wizard of Oz, Marcus Alonzo Hanna, who crafted a message that convinced enough urban dwellers that Bryan and the Democrats would destroy the system if they got elected. No reports on whether McKinley spent any time in his basement. The progressives had more apparent energy in 1896, but energy does not equate with effectiveness. Hopefully Donald Trump learns this soon, especially since his opponent, Scarecrow Joe, has neither a brain nor a heart.
Scarecrow Joe, a new nickname for the big guy, Mr. 10%. I love it. Very good, Frank. By the way, you know where William Jennings Bryan gave that Cross of Gold speech?
Was it in Omaha or was it in Omaha? Chicago, probably. Right?
Chicago. Yeah. The DNC in 1896 in Chicago. Frank from Arlington Heights, thank you. As always, coming up at 7:07, Noah Rothman joins us to talk more presidential politics. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
The very latest from Fox News coming up. WIND Chicago News Times, 7 o'clock.
He could be the first cabinet member impeached in 148 years. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. House Republicans plan a vote today, blaming the head of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, for record illegal immigration.
Secretary Mayorkas' actions, both in his intentional refusal to enforce our laws and abandoning the confidence of Americans, require us to act.
That's Congressman Tom Cole. Here's Fox's Brooke Singman.
The White House is denouncing the effort, saying, quote, the impeachment power was never intended as a device for members of an opposing political party to harass executive branch officials over policy disputes.
Democrats say it's a sham that'll go nowhere at the Senate, where there's a bipartisan border security compromise attached to military aid to Israel and Ukraine. Independent Senator Kirsten Sinema tells Fox.
Our border proposal actually solves the crisis at the border.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says no, it doesn't.
It would not resolve any of the problems, not reform in any meaningful way the broken asylum system, the broken parole process, and all the things that have created this catastrophe.
He tells Fox the House won't even consider the bill. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Egypt as talks continue trying to broker a new ceasefire in Gaza. There's flooding in California. Fox Weather's Max Gordon is next to what used to be a house in L.A.
This mudslide took out this home right here. This after nearly a foot of rain fell in some parts of Los Angeles, and the soil is absolutely saturated with water. 307 landslides have been recorded here in LA alone.
3 people killed by falling trees in Northern California. A country star has died. Red Solo Cup. Toby Keith had 20 #1 country hits.
I should have been a cowboy.
Keith died last night after a 2-year battle with stomach cancer. Kid Rock paid tribute, telling Fox.
He was such an incredible talent, and he loved his family like he loved his country. And we should also not forget what a fun guy he was.
Toby Keith is only 62. America's listening to Fox News.
35 degrees in Chicago at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Mayor Brandon Johnson is expected to give an update on the migrant crisis in Chicago this morning. The mayor's struggled to get out his message recently after reports of poor conditions at city-run migrant shelters and community pushback on his migrant proposals. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools are on strike this morning after bargaining came to a halt last night. No progress over the weekend between union members and the privately run charter schools favoring Hispanic students at the Health and Science Academy and the Justice and Leadership Academy. An off-duty Chicago police officer was involved in a shooting in Calumet Heights this morning. The Civilian Office for Police Accountability says that incident occurred at 95th and Stony Island. The family of a man shot and killed by police in Carroll Stream are demanding to see body camera footage of the confrontation that led to the death of their uncle and brother.
Isaac Goodlow, a 30-year-old black man, was shot and unjustifiably killed by the Carroll Stream police officers.
Carroll Stream says officers shot Goodlow after encountering a tense and rapidly evolving situation. Goodlow's family believes he may have been suffering from a mental health episode. Chicago Children's Hospital has been forced to take its networks offline after an unspecified cyber attack at Lurie's Children's Hospital last week. On Friday, the hospital announced a separate call center for patients to get prescriptions refilled or ask non-urgent questions. Waukegan residents are sounding off after a local hospital had its trauma center designation revoked. At last night's city council meeting, some residents expressed concerns about the loss of service at Vista Medical Center East. Mayor Ann Taylor.
I want to have communication with that hospital, and I want to hear from them. That's the thing that's been lacking, is the communication.
And Metra commuters this morning continue to have spotty problems making online ticket purchases on the Ventra app. The app has been up and down for 3 or 4 days. The News is a service of Fox Valley Coins, currently buying all gold and silver bars and coins, silver dollars, rare date proof, and mint sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk doesn't see work from the RNC.
The RNC and the regime, they're lazy.
and complacent. They don't want to be excellent. They don't want to flourish. They don't want to be great. And that culture is all throughout the RNC. They just are kind of okay with being mediocre. They're not trying to be the best version of themselves. They're not hustling. There's a lot of people that just want to work in politics.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When Freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Their U.S.-based restoration specialists are dedicated to helping solve identity theft issues, and all plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which means if you lose money because of identity theft, LifeLock will reimburse you to the limits of your plan. Go to LifeLock.com and save up to 25% your first year with promo code CLAY.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
7:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy inbound at 32 and climbing. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike right now 35 from Wolf into the old post office. Stevenson 38 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Tri-State overturned semi. Now 2 left lanes blocked. Southbound between Russell Road to right before Route 173 Rosecrans Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies and some patchy fog in the area this morning. Otherwise, partly sunny. High today, 45. Partly cloudy with some fog late tonight, though, 34. Patchy fog again tomorrow morning. Cloudy and mild, the high 53. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
By the way, just want to pass this along to our friends in Oak Lawn. We're hearing that 95th Street between Kenton and Kilbourne will be closed until 11 a.m. after power poles were knocked down from an overnight accident. We're investigating that to make sure the information is correct. When we get an update, we'll pass it along to you. Your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning is former ABC 7 political reporter Charles Thomas.
Good morning.
Charles, I don't know if you caught 60 Minutes on Sunday evening, but they did a piece on the border. A particular section of the border, about 60 miles east of San Diego, where there's been a little entrance to America created that is used by smugglers with frequency. That's certainly the observation of the gentleman that was interviewed by the 60 Minutes correspondent who owns 15 acres of property there and whose property, like, for example, ranchers in Eagle Pass, Texas, have had their properties overrun by people coming into this country illegally. Here's the description of this entrance point as the 60 Minutes correspondent is just watching and filming, as are border security, by the way, just watching this occur as migrants come in, mainly but not exclusively Chinese migrants, per the report. And then they're just ushered into awaiting CBP vehicles. And thus the process begins where they are distributed among all 50 border states. Take a listen.
Just after sunrise, we saw the first group of migrants make their way from Mexico through a gap between the 30-foot steel border fence and rocks, ducking under a bit of razor wire and into the United States. We were surprised to see the number of people coming through from China, nearly 7,000 miles away.
Careful, watch.
Our cameras, and at one point, this armed Border Patrol agent standing 25 feet away, did not deter them. 30 minutes later, a smuggler's SUV raced along the border fence and dropped another group at the same spot. And 30 minutes after that, another group. Over 4 days, we witnessed nearly 600 migrants, adults and children, pass through this hole and onto U.S. soil unchecked. We saw people from India, Vietnam, and Afghanistan.
How did they know about this particular section of the U.S. border, this entrance point, if you will?
We wondered how all of these migrants knew about this particular entryway into California. The answer was in their hands.
How do you know about that? Oh, Douyin, okay, TikTok. Oh, you learned on TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok is a social media platform created in China. The post we found had step-by-step instructions for hiring smugglers and detailed directions to that hole we visited. We were struck by just how orderly and routine it all seemed. The migrants walked about a half mile down a dirt road and waited in line for U.S. Border Patrol to arrive so they could surrender.
Yeah, that TikTok post was signed Sincerely President Xi, providing all the instructions and directions. And to that end, this conversation that 60 Minutes correspondent had with an asylum attorney, immigration attorney, specializing in asylum cases. And the issue, of course, is, well, a lot of those asylum seekers are denied asylum. And then, and we've talked about this before with respect to the border, because what's new in this story except the volume? And but Chinese Communist Party won't take them back. So they just de facto stay if their country of origin won't accept them?
Well, yeah. Based on our review of data from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, there are at least 36,000 Chinese who have been ordered by U.S. courts to leave the country. But China is notorious for not taking back its citizens, and the U.S. can't force China to accept them.
So then what happens if they have a failed claim but they can't go back to China?
That's a very good question. They're stuck in this limbo.
Uh-huh. And what about, this gap that's basically the size of a small doorway, this gap in the fencing where the CPB officer is watching just as the 60 Minutes cameras are? It's very orderly, she says. This is why all this invasion talk. Is it an invasion or is it a federal government-sponsored importation? Could you close that gap? Could you close that small doorway in the wall? Could you take that spot, that entrance point, offline? Well, yeah, but we need congressional action to do it.
They know that thing is there, and we all been telling them, hey, when this thing gonna quit over here? You gotta call Washington, D.C., that's what they say.
So we did. U.S. Customs and Border Protection told us their agents don't have authority to stop people from coming through gaps like this one, and can only arrest them after they've entered illegally. As for closing that gap, they said it is on their priority list, but would require money from Congress.
I mean, if you see this gap in the fence and you're waiting for congressional cash to block this spot, the whole thing is theater of the absurd, as is this idea that Customs and Border Protection should serve like a doorman at a nightclub, as opposed to you're not coming in, and also we're going to take our own initiative to shut this down. But that's not what the leadership of this country wants.
How
Clearly.
much could it cost to shut it down?
Clearly, I mean, it's nothing. I mean, you could have any contractor in the country fill in that spot in an hour.
Yeah.
So, you can understand the skepticism of a wide swath of the American public when it comes to this bipartisan compromise, quote unquote, on immigration and border security. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Noah Rothman, senior writer at National Review, author of the book The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, I mean, what does that, sort of summary through clips of the 60 Minutes piece, I think I got the highlights. What does that say about the seriousness of our political leadership when it comes to border security?
Well, it tells you they're not serious, first of all, obviously. I don't think anybody can look at this president's record, this administration's record, and say he's got a real, affinity for border security. It's also something about the inefficiency of government. It's the same thing that you have, you've got a pothole on your road, and you can't fix it, and you can't get the municipality to fix it, and if you were to fill it up, you'd be charged with a misdemeanor. This is government for you. It's not an efficient enterprise. Saying that a contractor could do it better, obviously. They quite could. They certainly could. They need authorization to do it. That's just the nature of the beast. And that's why you need new laws. I heard Senator John Barrasso say we don't need new laws. The president has all the authority he can to shut down the border. And to a certain extent, that's true. He's just not enforcing border security. But it's not as though we don't need new statutes. Republicans acknowledge as much. That's why they're pressing H.R. 2. H.R. 2 is an immigration law. They say we need to start with immigration laws. Well, if the president doesn't need new laws, why are we pressing H.R. 2? Because of course you need new laws. Of course you need to tighten asylum seeking. Of course you need to increase capacity in detention facilities, create new standards for asylum seekers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Republicans know that. This has just become a new talking point, and I don't think it's a helpful one. I frankly think that this bill is probably as good as they're going to get from a Democratic Congress that doesn't want to enforce immigration law, as you acknowledge, as I acknowledge, as ABC News acknowledges. This is a party that doesn't want to enforce the law. They want Republicans to rescue them from the quicksand they've parked themselves in. That's why the GOP has them over a barrel. They've got them on the run. I don't understand why they wouldn't press their advantage. It's like watching McClellan at Antietam. Just give them a punch on the nose, get them on the ropes, and back off. Why? What are you doing? Get everything you can out of these people. They're painted themselves into a corner. Make them pay for their weak politics.
Yeah, but the question becomes, and I think this is where the disagreement is what has been proposed, what was rolled out on Sunday afternoon, making them pay and making the country safer and seizing this moment to do something that is substantial, if not transformative, at the border. And a lot of Republicans, conservatives, border security hawks are saying, no, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can all quibble over the details, and I think we should, frankly, because the details are extremely important in this bill. And just as an overview, to take a 30,000-foot perspective, and as I wrote in that piece on a hawkish bill that meets the dovish GOP, if you were to park this in front of somebody in 2004 and say Democrats did this, Democrats gave you an all-enforcement bill. There's no amnesty here. There's no citizenship here. There's no green cards for illegal residents here. All enforcement. Plus, we're giving a lot of money to our advertisers, to our allies abroad and partners abroad who are eagerly fighting our enemies for us. And you say the Democrats did this? You'd say the Republicans were the dominant political force in this country. But they're not. They've got like a 2-seat majority in the House, and they've managed to get this out of Democrats. It is It is quite a coup and a significant concession from a party that does not want to do this. It must be repeated. They do not want to do any of this. It's their weak policies that have forced them into a corner. So when you talk about the details, a lot of this stuff is in H.R. 2. It's almost like it was a baseline for it. Again, boosting detention facilities.
Okay, I
could go through the litany, but
no, I mean, yeah, I know we've done that over the last 24 hours too. But I mean, but for example, to me, the poison pill in the legislation. Get your reaction to this. Is the presidential emergency declaration for up to 45 days, and given our previous experience with endless series of emergency declarations during COVID, from at both the federal level as well as COVIDian governors like our very own in Illinois, so all these provisions meet presidential discretion, and what would stop Joe Biden from one 45-day declaration after another when it comes to any of the provisions in terms of implementation?
Yeah. Well, some of them aren't subject to judicial review, which is actually distinct from H.R. 2, which does allow it to go to appellate courts. Some of which were responsible for issuing national injunctions on any Trump administration policy in relation to immigration. So it just sort of erases that backstop. But I am somewhat sympathetic to the idea that the president needs certain discretionary authority in the event of national emergencies, which are unforeseeable. So I can accept as a level of...
But also the national... Sorry to interrupt, but the national emergency, quote unquote, I mean, there's also no limiting principle, as we've seen, to that declaration.
Well, the limiting principle, as I understand it, is insofar as we're talking about how the Department of Homeland Security can functionally shut down the border after 5,000 crossers per day on average, or 8,500 migrants in a single day.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that one is an automatic. That automatically comes into effect, as far as I understand it. The waiving provision is in there, but it's complicated, and I don't think it necessarily. From what I've heard from people who have reviewed this bill over for the precisely 24 hours that we've had to review it, I think 36 now.
Yeah.
Suggests that it's not like something that the president can just simply appeal to without meeting these metrics. And if it beats these metrics, this 8,500 per day thing seems pretty ironclad. It doesn't go through the courts. It is, and the president is saying, "I'm desperate for you to do this." Like, he's not going to just immediately invoke this 45-day appeal because he wants this. That's the thing. He's begging for somebody to say, "Please enforce the border," because he wants the out. Democrats have cultivated a lot of open borders advocates in their constituent groups. They don't want them to do this. They don't want them to enforce the law. The president needs to say, "Look, Congress made me do it," in ways that no executive order in the future or today can circumvent. So he would enforce it. He wants to be forced to enforce it. He's begging Republicans to make him enforce the law so he can have some sort of cover, political cover. I think Republicans would be foolish not to give it to him, especially if you want this abject crisis that we all agree is a crisis to stop today. 8,500 sounds like a lot for a day, and it is.
Yeah.
But it's not a lot compared to the 302,043 migrant encounters that we had in December alone. It's a crisis. It needs to be addressed today.
No, right, but the argument is that so you're going to slow the flow, but you're not changing. You're not fundamentally changing what's occurring. You're just extending the timeline over which it's occurring.
That is not true, because if you're talking about the details of this bill, it provides new standards for asylum seekers to meet credible fear, which we actually would recognize as credible fear, not this bureaucratic double talk. It boosts the amount of judges and, crucially, judges' teams to beat back this obscene backlog. Money that is released for electronic monitoring and curfews and deportation flights, by the way, where the funds are not released until you meet them. I think it's like 1,500, something like that. And it speeds the process of citizenship and immigration to handle some of these more rote claims involving unaccompanied minors that clog up the courts. All of this stuff does change the process. All of this stuff does speed up the process. And it's not catch and release, in particular with this changing of the parole loophole to change the statute around parole. So no executive, Republican or Democrat, all of them have abused this. So no president can just determine what constitutes a parolee, an eligible parolee. It really does put a significant, in my reading of it, puts a significant pressure on the catch and release problem. H.R. 2 does a lot of that too, but some of this is a little bit more strict in this bill than even the H.R. 2 statutory language.
Well, I mean, but the argument for H.R. 2 and the argument that's been made by people like Tom Homan and other with experience at the border is that remain in safe third country, remain in Mexico, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that deals with 3/4 of the flow right there. So all of this is superfluous if you just through executive action reinstitute a remain in Mexico.
Well, so a lot of that's basically Title 42 policy, and according to the language in this bill, this compromise bill, that basically is Title 42 when it kicks in. When we say, all right, we've hit these arbitrary numbers here, then we have to re-implement Title 42. Now Republicans can say, look, you should do it immediately. You should do it with one border crosser. Just do it permanently.
Right.
That's what you would get if you had united government behind Republicans. You don't have united government behind Republicans. So what Republicans can do is either bank what they've gotten from Democrats, which is, again, nothing I've ever seen from Democrats. Or you could roll the dice and say, well, maybe we can get a better deal out of Democrats, because there will be Democrats. Unless you think Democrats are going to be raptured out of existence on January 20th, 2025, you're going to have to deal with Democrats. So let's say, okay, well, maybe we'll get a better deal when Trump is president, Republicans retake the Senate and the House. That's a huge gamble. It's a gigantic gamble, and it's not necessarily one I would bank the mortgage on.
Well, the problem, I mean, first of all, a lot, as you conceded, a lot of this could be done by executive action, so you don't need to eliminate Democrats altogether to get a more substantial effort with respect to border security in November. You need to win one office, the presidency. And I am not saying it's a fait accompli, but I'm just saying there are obvious workarounds here. In addition, and that's based on Supreme Court precedent in terms of presidential power at the border. But the other piece of this is this moment, right? I mean, so you have the nation transfixed on this issue. And if you take half a loaf 8 months before a national election, then this dissipates, and all politicians on both sides say, we solved it, we addressed it, we're solutionists. And to try to resuscitate that subsequently is going to be difficult politically.
Yeah, well, that's I think it's a honestly, to say it outright, which Donald Trump has, is a rather cynical maneuver to say, listen, we can't actually solve this problem because then we've solved the problem, not solved the problem.
Well,
you know what I'm saying. Make a significant dent in it. At which point you give the Democratic president an out. Listen, I really don't think that voters are going to look at the border and say, well, Joe Biden doesn't own this thing anymore. I mean, that's pretty baked in. What it's going to do, however, is give nervous Democrats a reason to come home to Joe Biden. And he's an unpopular president, and I can understand why Republicans would balk at that opportunity. It's nevertheless an acute crisis, so you're balancing your political objectives versus national security objectives, and I would side with the latter.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, well, I mean, you're also in this sort of fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, because, I mean, we just, this is the third term of the Joe Obama administration, and I mean, we had a president who Biden served as his VP, who moved that DACA program, conceding that he believed it was unconstitutional, and federal courts later agreed with him. But the point is, these are ends justify the means politicians. These are not rule of law politicians. The law is a workaround for politicians generally, I grant you, but specifically on this issue for that party. So, I mean, you can understand, and I think it's healthy, the skepticism that exists in terms of enforcement.
Well, yeah, I share that skepticism, but that's why you change the statutory language so that the courts are no longer a refuge. The reason why you can't do a lot of this stuff by executive order that Obama attempted to do, is because the Republicans ended up changing the statutory language, changing the law. And no president can come back around and say, okay, well, I'm just going to ignore this law. You can until the courts have access to it, and then they say, no, I'm sorry, we're going to enjoin that. This is beyond your legal authority. The executive power, and when it comes to immigration, is extremely broad. It's extremely discretionary, and it should not be.
Well, that's part of the problem. And part of the problem, too, is Jonathan Turley had a good piece in The Hill this week, the George Washington law professor, about open borders and closed courts, talking about Congress repeatedly trying to impose limits through legislative mandates, and told they can't sue to enforce mandatory provisions. States are told they can't sue to secure their own borders. And so, as he writes, it reduces our system to a mere Potemkin village, a facade of constitutional powers with little ability to protect them. In other words, if the federal government decides they want the fire to burn, then they can let it burn.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer or a judge, so I couldn't weigh in on the constitutional merits of whatever argument, depending on the court or the judge that hears those. But that's still an argument for tightening up the statute. And that's still an argument for hemming in the president and compelling him to enforce law. I've been very frustrated with Congress watching them observe this crisis as though they're just spectators to it. It's gotten to the point now where we're involving armed factions of the military in a dispute between the states and the federal government and the courts, and Congress is just sitting there saying, well, maybe we'll write a law. They should be threatening the administration's priorities. They should be using the power of the purse and subpoena power, which are the only things that have any capacity to induce behavioral changes on the part of the presidency, to use them to make the president do his job, to threaten what he holds dear. That is sort of something that is in the purview of Congress. Yes, they should be changing statute. Yes, they should be holding out carrots as well as sticks. But I don't see any sticks. The sticks need to be there, too. Go after the president's green funding priorities or whatever the heck student loan forgiveness. I don't know. Whatever it is he decides that he needs in this particular moment, and say, until you force the law, this is what we're going to do. Oh, and also, we have this other law that we'd like you to sign into law. And these are the things that are in Congress's purview as the first branch of government, and just doesn't do it. And I'm sorry, I'm very frustrated with Republicans who are sitting back and saying we don't need new laws. When they argue that we need new laws, of course we need new laws. We need to tighten the statutory language to force the president to do what is his job. He's not inclined to do his job. Congress needs to make him do it. Well, I agree, and I the power of the purse point is a critical one as well. That the step they have not taken. I completely agree with that. Noah Rothman, senior writer, National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans: Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thank you as always. Thank you. Noah Rothman joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line. And coming up at 7:37, we'll turn our attention to all things Illinois related when WirePoints.org's Ted Dabrowski joins us. That's 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Charles, 7:32 in Chicago. Freezing fog out there and 35 degrees. A House vote on impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could come as early as today. On Monday, the Republican-led House Rules Committee voted 8-4 to send that measure to the full House.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk will report the total.
8 yeas, 4 nays.
And the ayes have it.
Committee Chairman Tom Cole of Oklahoma accused Mayorkas of refusing to uphold his oath of office by failing to enforce immigration law. U.S. airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria have resulted in casualties. Pentagon spokesman Major General Pat Ryder says CENTCOM is continuing its assessment on Friday's strikes.
We currently assess that we had good effects and that the strikes destroyed or functionally damaged more than 80 targets at the 7 facilities.
Ryder says it's the beginning of retaliation against groups who left 3 American soldiers dead. Severe storms left flooding in parts of California. Fox Weather's Max Gordon is in L.A.
The terrain is steep and the ground is soaked. All around us, the sound of water running down this very steep street after this landslide took out this home. 307 landslides have been reported here in Los Angeles alone. 5 houses have had to be red tagged, 7 houses yellow tagged, and a local state of emergency has been declared. Hundreds of thousands of customers have been without power. Currently, just under 200,000 customers up in Northern California have the lights off. Power crews trying to get the lights back on. But in Northern California, that's where we've seen 3 deaths confirmed. All of those deaths due to trees either falling on homes or falling on people, unfortunately.
Multiple counties in Central and Southern California are in a state of emergency. Mayor Brandon Johnson is expected to give an update on the migrant crisis here in Chicago this morning. It comes after closed-door meetings between the mayor, the governor, and Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools have gone on strike today. An off-duty Chicago police officer involved in a shooting in the Calumet Heights neighborhood this morning near 95th and Stony Island. Bulls look to get back in the win column when they host the Timberwolves tonight. The news is a service of Turnkey.pro. Turnkey knows small business. Reduce your costs and find new revenue streams. Grow your team. Do more in 2024 with help from Turnkey. Managed IT, marketing, and business consulting. Visit Turnkey.pro today. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka puts it simply.
3 of our servicemen are dead thanks to an Iranian drone strike, and 40 are in hospital. This is the cost, the real cost in terms of human life, of having people who hate America running America. It's really that simple.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. In America, we have a basic and very important expectation that elected officials will uphold our Constitution and require the enforcement of our laws. How naive the American people look, though, after all of this. We are way past the broken windows theory of policing, which held that when small crimes are not policed, then more serious crimes take root. We are at the stage now where the very people elected to enforce our laws brazenly refuse to do so. The latest chapter in this book is the 150 Democrats in Congress who refused to vote for a bill that mandated deportation of an illegal alien caught driving while intoxicated. This bill shouldn't be controversial, and Democrats more concerned about protecting people who entered illegally than American citizens should lose their offices in November. Here are the 10 in Illinois who voted for that bill. Deli Ramirez, no surprise who she sides with, as her mother entered the country illegally. Sean Casten, Raja Krishnamurthy, Lauren Underwood, Danny Davis, Chuy Garcia, Mike Quigley, Robin Kelly, Jan Schakowsky, and Jonathan Jackson. Now you know their names. Another Democrat that fits right in with this group is State Rep Justin Slaughter. He filed legislation that says police can't pull drivers over for speeding, improper lane change, expired plates, and more. And if they do and discover evidence of other crimes, like drugs or an illegal gun, that evidence is inadmissible in court. The question now isn't who writes laws like that or who votes for bills that protect criminals. The question is, who continues to vote for politicians who do these things? I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio show on this station on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Is your IRS tax debt making you feel anxious? The professionals at Allies Tax Relief are ready to negotiate your fresh start. Call them now, 800-230-5174.
7:38, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, 45 minutes on your inbound Kennedy commute, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stevenson in solid traffic, Harlem to Kedzie. It's an hour from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. 35 minutes on the Dan Ryan Inn, 95th into the Circle interchange. DuSable Lakeshore Drive jammed up northbound, Foster up to Hollywood. The Reagan stop and go eastbound between York and the Tri-State. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our QC Kinetics Weather Center, cloudy with fog this morning. Sun breaks out in the afternoon, a high of 45. 35 right now. Your next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J is Charles Thomas, former ABC 7 political reporter. And, hey, Charles, the Pritzker Purge Law, the so-called Safety Act, is working just as planned. I note this new report out from WirePoints. Cook County jail population at its lowest level in 40 years, down 15% since the Safety Act was implemented.
Really? What's the number now?
4,600.
Really? I can remember when it was over 10,000, and that wasn't that long ago.
You can remember all the way back to 2013?
Yeah.
How about that?
All the way back. I mean, that's an accomplishment for me, by the way. But yeah. So you got, what, less than half? That's amazing. That was one of Toni Preckwinkle's major goals when she came onto the scene, I think, in 2010, to reduce the population at the Cook County Jail, and she has succeeded. My goodness! But you should see some of these. I'm looking at the ABC7 website now, and the video robberies that are on video.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, man! It's a lot of stuff going on out there.
Well, and people might say, well, that's okay because they're on electronic monitoring. Well, actually, I'm not sure that would be okay, but it turns out that the number of individuals on electronic monitoring has also dropped. It's down 15% year over year, nearly 15% between 2022 and 2023. So emptying out the jails and also fewer people on electronic monitoring, it must mean that the city is exponentially safer.
Yeah.
Except that doesn't seem to be the case. Ted Dabrowski, President WirePoints, wirepoints.org, joins us now. Ted, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Charles. How are you guys doing?
So give us, I sort of gave the top line here, but dig into this report that you did on, the early impact of the Safety Act, because we're only talking about a handful of months since it really went into effect. Cook County is implementing in earnest.
The thing about the Safety Act is that we're the state that entirely wipe out a cash bail. And so this is a massive experiment in the country. And so key to that would be lots of data, after you implement it to know how it's going. The government is way behind on telling us they're managing that, what kind of defendants are being detained, which ones are being set loose, recidivism, all that kind of stuff. They should be telling us exactly how that's working. They can't. With great groups like CWB to tell us what's actually happening on the streets. So we don't have that data. We have to look and see what's happening with jail populations, what's happening with monitoring, our bad guys being detained. And, the three things that we can look at now worry us because you got the jail population coming down pretty quickly. The electronic monitoring way down. It's down another 10% since the no cash bail went into effect. And then you've got all these detentions that are being proposed by prosecutors, and they're being appealed, I should say. They're being appealed by defendants, at record levels. So attempts to keep bad guys in jail. And we've seen the stories. They're really bad guys. It's not working. And, of course, that's exactly what, Preckwinkle and want Fox. They don't want people in jail. They're getting their way.
The other thing is that if you look at some of these videos that are on the ABC7 website right now, you can go to them immediately, and you'll see that the criminals are not at all afraid of what they're doing. I mean, they're going on, some of these crimes are going on for 5, 10, 15 minutes that we're seeing the videos. And the criminals are not afraid to do what they're doing. They're not at all discouraged from it.
Ted, to that point, remind us of the reporting that WirePoints has done on 911 response calls.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's two things that go with it, right? Over half of all urgent 911 calls don't have police available to respond to. Mm-hmm. So, they know, and look, these guys are smart. They know what they can get away with and what they can't. So police isn't coming. But then there's the second big fact, and this is based on the police data. So I refuse to believe it. I can't believe it's true, but this is what they say. Just 4% of major crimes result in an arrest. So look, if you're a criminal and you've been doing this for a while, and you know what's happening out on the streets, if the cops don't come, and even if they do, they don't arrest you, or they can't track you down, they can't chase you in their car, they can't foot chase you. And and that's why you can do that's why you can do these robberies where you rob one person here, then you go drive 2 blocks, rob somebody there, then you drive another 3 blocks, and you're going to get away with it. And even if you do get busted, guess what? Because of the Safety Act, they're going to put you right back on the street in a couple of hours. So what the hell, go for it.
I mean, this is like the Fox Butterfield moment. So pretrial detention is down. Electronic monitoring is down. Half of 911 calls don't get a response, and violent crimes were up 14% year over year, 23 versus 22. Well, one explains all of that explains the outcome, but these people have a difficult time, I guess, connecting those dots. I don't know, because as you say, and as Charles was saying, I mean, this is what they want. So they're celebrating reduced jail population, reduced number of individuals, mainly violent, that would have otherwise been on pretrial detention. They're celebrating fewer people on electronic monitoring, and then they're pretending that violent crime is going down because we had a slight reduction in just one serious murder, one serious category of crimes. But again, overall, up 14%, year over year last year.
Still like nearly 60% over 2019 for major crimes. So these are massive numbers. I think what's interesting is watching the media try to cover this crime and say join and celebrate people in jail, the social justice aspects of this. At the same time, how ridiculous, as Charles just pointed out, how ridiculous it is. Bad guys can sit there and just hang out 15 minutes and go through people's stuff, knowing that, okay.
Ted, I'm looking at a website story right now that's it's headlined, "Group Robs Woman in Jefferson Park." That's 4 men on 1 woman, 1 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning. Then they returned several minutes later to beat her on the street. And you're looking at this thing, and it goes on for like 10 minutes. No cops. The woman is waving on the street, "Please help me, help me." Nobody will stop. This is incredible that this is going on in the city, but it's the perception of crime, but the perception by the criminal on what he or she can get away with.
A buddy of mine just texted in. He owns a high-end auto repair shop in West Loop. Criminals stole 3 cars right off the lifts at my shop. Right off the lifts. Used one of them for 4 more days in a crime spree. Next time they show up, if we're there, an arrest won't be necessary, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. But this is what it's getting to. This is what you get when you have sort of when you have lawlessness. It's just you're demanding, you're compelling vigilante justice because, well, people see what's happening and that they are going to be required to defend themselves whether they want to be or not.
well, yeah, you'll end up with two things, right? Or three things. You'll have fewer people come down to Chicago, as you already hear from a lot of suburbanites, rightly or wrongly, they're not going. But the second thing is you'll see more and more people just leave Chicago, and you've heard of plenty of that. And of course, the third thing is, you're going to have vigilantes who are going to try to take care of themselves. I mean, there's a certain risk. Maybe it's still low for an individual person, but when you watch some of these videos, you see how emboldened criminals are. I mean, they are clearly emboldened. They don't fear. They don't worry. And that's what you're up against. So don't be surprised if you have more vigilante-type actions.
One more topic I wanted to get to is this rundown you did on DI staff at the state public universities in Illinois, the number of DEI, chancellor, associate chancellor, DEI director, et cetera, et cetera. So just in this moment, thanks to the Ivy League, where people are actually paying attention to this, and there seems to be some culling of DI jobs in corporate America and in academia, maybe less so in academia. It's very much alive and well in Illinois.
Well, it really is. We did a piece a few weeks ago, and it got a decent amount of attention. So we FOIA'd all the universities here in Illinois, trying to see what comes back. And you can imagine we got all kinds of different things. Some gave us a decent amount of information. The University of Illinois only gave us a list of 79 people, which is already a big number, but 79 people who work in DEI. But if you go to their website, you start finding all kinds of other people who work in the College of Engineering and the College of Business, and you start seeing these are names that the FOIA did not provide. So what you know is that the implementation of DEI is all over the place. It's got its tentacles everywhere. And the scary part about University of Illinois is that they have this loyalty oath they're asking professors to take, saying that they will and they have promoted DEI in their lesson plans, and how they teach and all that. And it's crazy stuff, and it needs a lot more attention. But it's going to take a lot of work because U of I refused to answer other questions about how much they're spending on vendors and things like that. So we're going to have to keep going at this.
Sure. Put your hand on Mao's Little Red Book and pledge allegiance to DEI. That sounds good. That sounds like the sort of thing that should be happening in quote-unquote higher education. By the way, the other piece of this with respect to these DEI positions pays pretty good.
Yeah, pays pretty good. I mean, you got Sean Garrick, who's the head guy for diversity and equity, $364,000 total comp. So when we're worried about our tuitions going up, you got the Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement, $243,000. You got the Associate Chancellor, $230,000. And I can go down the list. And again, this is a truncated list. They did not want to give us the full data. So we're going to have to keep working at it to get that full list.
Well, you keep working. Ted Dabrowski, President of WirePoints, wirepoints.org. All things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great one, Ted.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Right now is a really good time to get your student loans under control. There are so many people that we talk to every day who tell us that they just feel so much anxiety and overwhelmed by their student loans. But once they pick up that phone and call us and we're able to give them a plan and a strategy that may lower their payment by hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, and may actually get their loans forgiven. The point is just to give people some clarity and control over their situation so that they know that whatever the payment is, whatever the plan is, there actually is a plan, and that plan is going to save them the most amount of money. I'm Ray Kaplan, and I can help you get debt-free, stress-free. Give us a call at 312-294-8989 or visit us at financialrelief.com.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS is raising the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes, and further rate hikes are expected. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. So if you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. In fact, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com. Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary.
Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC-accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
The best way to protect yourself from inflation, hyperinflation, or a recession is to trade the doomed currency into a hard asset before it happens. Why precious metals? Gold and silver have been the store of value for thousands of years. Why not ETFs or just buy it on paper? The whole sales pitch for owning gold and silver is to have it in your own control, not in some bank vault hundreds of miles away or the cloud. Can't you just buy from anyone? Most people like the anonymity of paying cash and walking out the door with the product. You can't do that through the mail. If you are buying or selling gold, silver, or platinum, it's basically cash and carry.
Fox Valley Coins. Our products are as good as, well, you get the idea. Don't buy and sell through the mail. Deal with a real store. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville for an investment with a real silver lining. Check out foxvalleycoins.com.
Baby, it's cold outside, and we've got the perfect cure for those winter blues. Grab your loved ones and settle in this evening with a relaxing jigsaw puzzle from Heart Puzzles, made right here in the Midwest. Their vast assortment includes a variety of themes. Go retro and cool with the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Revisit past trips with the National Parks Collection. Gaze at the wonders of space with the Hubble and Webb Deep Space Telescopes puzzles. Feel nostalgic with the immensely popular Boomers favorites. What's more is that a piece of every puzzle sale automatically goes to charity, so you'll be supporting their mission of giving back to veterans, funding medical research, and preserving our national parks. Order now and get 20% off by using promo code AM560. Order 2 puzzles and get free shipping and a tote bag. Order 3 puzzles and they'll even include a puzzle mat. Again, use promo code AM560. Their popular designs often sell out, so visit them today at heartpuzzles.com. That's HART puzzles.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Charles Thomas in for Amy J this morning. Coming up at 8:08, we'll talk to Elbridge Colby from the Marathon Initiative on a geopolitical run on America's geopolitical bank, the danger America faces. He'll describe it at 8:08. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Possible record-breaking warm weather this week in Chicago. Family of a man shot and killed by Carroll Stream police want to see the video. Waukegan residents speak out against a hospital losing a trauma center designation. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
There's just too much water in California. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
It's a wasteland up there now.
After about a foot of rain fell in the Los Angeles area, there's flooding and hundreds of landslides.
Got some clothes on, went outside, and quickly discovered that there was quite a bit of damage.
Now the Fox Weather's Max Gordon in L.A.
The threat is not over. We're expecting more rain throughout the rest of the day, and officials here are warning that the ground could still slide even when the weather improves because the ground is just so moist.
In Northern California, there are 150,000 power outages after heavy winds took down trees. 3 of them fell on people, killing them. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Egypt, focused on Gaza. And Fox's Trey Yingst reports from Tel Aviv.
We do understand America's top diplomat is focused on trying to move forward conversations about a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that could work to de-escalate rising tension across the Middle East.
And yet again today, Houthi militants attacked a ship in the Red Sea, but only doing slight damage. House Republicans plan an impeachment vote today, which Democrats call a sham, for the head of Homeland Security, blaming Alejandro Mayorkas for record illegal immigration.
The lawless actions of a cabinet secretary have led to the chaos and destruction across our land.
House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green making the argument for the 2 articles of impeachment that allege Mayorkas hasn't enforced the law and has misled the public by telling Congress the border is secure. Republican Ken Buck has already said he'll vote no, meaning the GOP can only afford to lose one more Republican without any support from Democrats. Buck says impeaching Mayorkas would set a bad precedent.
That's Fox's Ryan Schmelz. Country music has lost a big star. Toby Keith has died after a 2-year battle with stomach cancer. He had 20 #1 country hits. He died last night at the age of 62. His family by his side. America's listening to Fox News.
35 degrees. Freezing fog to our west. Visibility's down to a quarter mile or less near DeKalb this morning. 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Mayor Brandon Johnson expected to give an update on the migrant crisis here in Chicago this morning after the mayor has struggled to get out his message recently after reports of poor conditions at migrant shelters and community pushback on his migrant priorities. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools are going on strike today. It comes after bargaining Monday night and over the weekend led to no progress. An off-duty Chicago police officer was involved in a shooting in the Calumet Heights neighborhood early this morning. According to the Civilian Office for Police Accountability, the incident occurred near 95th and Stony Island. The family of a man shot and killed by police in suburban Carroll Stream are demanding to see body camera footage of the confrontation that led to the death of their uncle and brother.
Isaac was suffering some form of mental health crisis. What he was calling for was help, not to be shot by the police.
The attorney for Isaac Goodlow's family, Andrew Stroh. Waukegan residents are sounding off after a local hospital had its trauma center designation revoked. At last night's city council meeting, residents expressed concerns about the loss of services at Vista Medical Center East. Mayor Ann Taylor.
I want to have communication with that hospital, and I want to hear from them. That's the thing that's been lacking, is the communication.
The Illinois Department of Public Health notified the hospital last week it was no longer a designated 2 trauma center. Chicago sports. Bulls take on the Timberwolves later on tonight. AM 560 news time is 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Palantir shares are jumping after an upbeat quarter driven by demand for artificial intelligence. Though the data analytics company is known for providing services to the U.S. government, it says commercial customers drove its business in recent months. Toyota says its gas-electric hybrid vehicles are flying off dealer lots in the U.S. The automaker is forecasting a record profit for the fiscal year ending in March after earnings in the recent quarter topped forecasts. Economists at Deutsche Bank are no longer expecting the U.S. economy to tip into recession this year. They see cooling inflation and the labor market returning to a better balance without unemployment rising significantly. The bank's forecast is for a more benign slowdown this year than it previously projected. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher hopes Biden takes this seriously.
Now, Congress is clashing fiercely over the degree of American involvement in this conflict in the Middle East. Again, it's the Biden regime, it's the Biden era, and we're going to see what Grandpa Joe comes up with. Let's hope he's making decisions when he is fairly lucid, because these are America's sons and daughters we're talking about.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer. You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel. Not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
As a local business owner, you get called every week by marketing companies. We get it. We have hundreds of satisfied customers. Here's what a satisfied client recently said.
Open enrollment is going great. We're hitting record numbers. Thank you so much for this report. It really is amazing to see how the marketing is really shaping our enrollment around the city.
If you're a local business and ready for the next step, visit surroundchicago.com right now. Our experts are ready to help you take your marketing to the next level. Visit surroundchicago.com today.
You know, everyone goes to bed, but not everyone goes to sleep. Like many, I have a fairly demanding schedule, right? It's important I get a great night's sleep. I want to be sharp and at my very best. Sleep is something that I used to struggle with. I had tried a number of products to help, but I began searching for a natural solution. Well, I found it from some old friends, Relief Factor. I was at the Relief Factor headquarters, and I learned all about Sleep by Relief Factor. It has been a godsend for me. With Sleep by Relief Factor, I'm finally getting the best night's sleep of my life. I wake up refreshed. I'm never groggy. I feel the difference every single day. I urge you to check out Sleep by Relief Factor. Get your first bottle of Sleep for only $19.95. You'll sleep better, feel better, and get more rest. Call 800-4-RELIEF to order now, or you can go to relieffactor.com/sleep. Call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF, or go to relieffactor.com/sleep. If it can help me, there's a good chance it'll help you. Invest in yourself. Invest in peace of mind. Relief Factor Sleep.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Eden's right now beginning to really gum up between Foster and Montrose, 25 minutes in from Lake Cook Road. The Kennedy right now settling in at 1 hour and 5 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound stop and go because of an accident outbound approaching the Edens Junction. The Eichen, 54 from Manheim into the old post office. Stevenson jams solid. Harlem to Kedzie, 67 in from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, an accident inbound at 91st, and it's 43 minutes, 95th, into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and some patchy fog this morning. Partly sunny by the afternoon. A high today 45. Partly cloudy, some fog late tonight, low 34. Fog again tomorrow, cloudy and mild. The high tomorrow 53. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
At O'Hare 36, your next news update 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy is former ABC7 political reporter and radio talk show host, Charles Thomas.
That's me.
That is you. And Charles, as I often say, you can learn a lot about playing the game of geopolitics from great works of literature like J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And I'm glad to see that Walter Russell Mead, Bard College academic, agrees with me. In his piece on Iran, he provides this delightful analogy. He reminds us of elderly King Theoden, staring into his memories as the shadows gather around his endangered realm. Reading from Mead's column. The counselors of decline whisper the logic of despair into his aging ears. Saruman, they say, referencing the dangerous wizard building armies and fortifications near Theoden's frontiers, has limited goals, and you can work with him. Besides, Saruman is irresistible, and you can't defeat him. Yes, his warg and orc allies can be a little rough around the edges, but at the end of the day, détente with Saruman offers your best hope for regional peace. Throughout the Obama era, and again during the Biden years, the defeatists and Iran apologists whispered and spun. At the same time, the bloody-fingered allies of the Ayatollahs wrought havoc across the Middle East, subjecting Lebanon, subverting Iraq, wrecking Syria, immiserating Yemen, and equipping Hamas for its ruinous war. Meanwhile, the mullahs continued their drive for nuclear weapons and missiles. According to one prominent analyst, they could make a bomb within days and a respectable nuclear arsenal within a few weeks or months. That's terrifying. In Tolkien's world, King Theoden woke up from the spell he was under in the nick of time, dismissed his turncoat counselor Wormtongue, and led his country back into the light. Will Biden do the same? He's got a lot of Wormtongues around him. In fact, he is one. Here's a guy who was on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in 1979 during the hostage crisis that you could argue certainly in part cost Jimmy Carter his presidency. No lessons learned there. Why should he learn any now? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Elbridge Colby, co-founder and principal of the Marathon Initiative. He served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy and Force Development from 17 to 18. He's also the author of The Strategy of Denial, American Defense in the Age of Great Power Conflict. Elbridge Colby, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
So how do you like Walter Reed's analogy? Walter Russell Mead's analogy.
Well, I always find Walter's pieces illuminating and compelling. I'm not an expert, as much of an expert on the Tolkien as he is, so I won't comment too much. I would say that the main reaction I would have to Walter's articles, and I say this as an admirer and a friend of his, is that I think he grapples well with the challenges of American weakness and the rise of other theaters like Asia, but I don't see him grappling as forthrightly with the difficult trade-offs that we need to make because our defense industrial base is not where it needs to be. The debt, as Jay Powell said over the weekend, the debt has become a very serious issue. There's a lot of concern about greater spending. So we're in a world of hard choices, and I think, I guess literary analogies can be helpful, but I think it should be pretty straightforward. We have tough choices to make, and we need to focus on the things that are the biggest priorities for us.
Well, what's the tough choice as it pertains to Iran?
Well, the tough choice as it pertains to Iran is that we can't afford to get involved into a large Middle East war. You have a number of people out there, actually relatively few, fortunately, but saying, hey, we should bomb Tehran or regime change the Ayatollahs. And, I don't know where these people have been the last 25 years, but we tried that a couple times and it had limited success at best. And more importantly, we can't keep running that playbook because we're behind the Chinese in their military buildup, and that's a much more significant issue. China makes Iran pale in comparison. The Iranian regime and its ideology is a nasty one, there's no question, but they're just a lot less strong than China is. And so you have a lot of people out there, kind of acting as if it's 1999, and it's just not. You look at the situation in Ukraine, and the fact that we've run into significant constraints on our ability to produce weapons, and many of those that we've given to the Ukrainians or others, it's going to take years and years for us to replace. In the meantime, Admiral Sam Paparo, who's up to lead the Indo-Pacific Command out in Honolulu, he pointed out the other day in testimony before the Senate Armed Services Committee that, people talk about 2027 and Xi Jinping's order to the PLA to be ready by then, but that's just what's called a fourth development goal. They might go tomorrow. They might go in a year. They might go in 5 years. They might never go. But we have to be ready today, tomorrow, and in 5 years. And we need to look at the Iran context in that light. Now, that doesn't mean just rolling over, but it means, like a business that has overextended itself, basically, we've got to, it doesn't mean you close up shop and just give up, but it means you've got to rationalize your strategies and your postures.
Well, it seems there are some easy choices that we can make, too, that we're not making, at least under this administration. For example, enforcement of sanctions against Iran that were imposed, not trading cash for hostages, restarting our domestic energy production, certainly not eliminating.
Totally.
So that the world is less reliant. We're less reliant on bad actors. They have less money and thus less wherewithal. These are some easy choices we could make, right?
Totally. This administration's policy is bewildering at best and catastrophically self-defeating at worst. Why would we stop energy production when it's great for American growth? It diminishes the influence of countries like Iran and Russia. Why wouldn't we put significant, even maximum economic pressure on Iran? Why wouldn't, instead of, I saw recently the Biden climate czar, White House climate czar, and the way he was talking was like they'd been handing out billions of dollars to green energy startups. Why didn't we invest some of that enormous amount of money earlier in this administration in the defense industrial base? That would make sense. You got the President of the United States saying, hey, we're America. Well, our defense industrial base isn't where it needs to be. So there's some basic things that we should do. And there's also the whole approach that the president seems to take in his administration, which is to allow Iran to precisely calculate and calibrate how far it can push us. That's not smart. With President Trump or President Nixon, you go back, you couldn't necessarily, President Eisenhower, you couldn't calculate how he might respond. It didn't mean that he was necessarily going to respond maximally to everything, because then you get into unnecessary wars. But President Biden is incredibly calculable, and I think that's a lot of what's going on, where they're bombing throughout the Middle East, Yemen, et cetera, and by their own admissions, it's continuing to happen. So it's not succeeding.
Right, and so and then the flip side too. You mentioned Ukraine because this is all tied up in that Senate immigration bill that dropped on Sunday that we've been discussing the last couple of days, as everybody, and it's so the EU just gave $54 billion to Ukraine. And now it seems like, we have to give $60 billion to them because we have to keep pace. We have to keep pace with our EU. We're partners in peace and this and that. And if we don't, then we're going to get our finger wagged at us by European countries.
We're definitely getting our finger wagged. Trust me, I know that.
Yeah, saying where is United States? Where is United States leadership? It's such a bait. It's like you're not man enough to support Ukraine. What's going on? And no, we're going to be there whether it makes sense or not.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, I think there's obviously huge problems with the border bill on the border security front, and others are more expert to comment on that. But I think there are very, very compelling concerns and doubts about that. But I would just say the priorities in that bill are wildly mixed up. I mean, we're sending $61 billion to Ukraine, whereas we know that China's our top threat, and we're way behind where we need to be. So if anything, it should be reversed. And I agree with you. I mean, my point has been since the beginning of the war. It's not that the Russians are the good guys. They're not. Their invasion of Ukraine is an evil act. But look, it's in Europe. The Europeans are incredibly wealthy economies. They have not been spending enough on their own security. And the old kind of Uncle Sugar model just ain't going to work anymore. It doesn't mean we get out of NATO, but it means we have more of an equal partnership. And I mean, honestly, and I talk to them a lot, and the finger wagging is right. There's a kind of combination of like finger wagging and panic and petulance and and it's like, look, people, I mean, I almost feel like just grow up. Like, you got to take care of your own stuff. The fact that you're spending more is great. That's great. I encourage you. They've obligated $50 billion over. I think it's over at least a couple of years, but that's great. Okay, but the American people, A, have bigger problems internationally in Asia that we're behind on. B, there's the border. C, there's increasing concerns about the amount of money we've spent. And D, by the way, the American people are sick and tired of foreign interventions. So, that's just, that old way is done. And I think the right way of looking at things is putting Americans' interests first. Now, that doesn't mean just withdrawing from the world, but it means being a lot more calibrated in how we engage, especially militarily in the world. And it means really demanding that our allies step up more. And I mean, I don't know how people can actually resist that. And I think part of the panic and the sort of ad hominem attacks come from a recognition at some level that, of course, it's ridiculous to oppose that line because that's the only sustainable way forward.
Right, and so it's their backyard too. Oh, by the way, not ours, but
exactly, they should be paying more for it because it's in their front yard, backyard, whatever. Like it's right next to them. It's far from us. Why are we? One of the guys who's one of the big poobahs I was just on tour with, he used to run the Munich Security Council. He said, American leadership for 70 years creates responsibility for Americans. I was like, well, actually the fact that Americans have been contributing disproportionately for 70 years, doesn't that mean you owe us, if anything? And B, you're German. Like, do I need to go there? Like, if anything, the American people, we're already paying 3+% of GDP. The notion that we owe something to them is facially absurd, and no adult in their private life or in their commercial life would ever adopt this kind of attitude. The problem is that our elite, our blob elite, has cultivated this because they personally and as a class benefit from this. And I don't want to get too Marxist, but there's a mismatch between the foreign policy elite and the interests of the Americans, and that is now done. President Trump and others are trying to rectify that so that we can put it on a more sustainable basis, I think.
Right. I mean, this is the mentality with everything, to create dependence. And so you've got Western Europe is a bunch of house cats because of the last 70 years. Well, it's time to go outside, Yeah,
and they're it's not like they're poor anymore. They were destroyed. Like they're top. I mean, most advanced semiconductors are designed by a Dutch firm. Like they build Airbus. Like they're not children. If anything, we're the children. They're the adults, right? Many of us came from there. So don't give me this children stuff. That's just the con. I'm watching my wallet.
One thing, because Chuck Schumer, again, making the case for the Senate immigration bill, mainly it seems to fund Ukraine, $60 billion, as we were saying. He said, he trotted out the old line of argumentation about Putin's revanchism and that, we either provide the funding now to help Ukraine repel the Russians or we're going to be fighting, and he implied boots on the ground in Eastern Europe in 3 years. Even if you believe that Putin has his sights set beyond Ukraine to restore the motherland, does it necessarily follow that we should be providing the funding that Chuck Schumer desires?
I agree with Senator Schumer that there's a serious danger from the Russians. I think they are rearming. I will say that they are not the Red Army of Marshal Zhukov or of 1965. They are a far cry from that. They're having difficulty just with Ukraine. So they are not going to roll to the English Channel, but they are a major threat to Eastern NATO, so I think we should take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But given the fact that Senator Schumer has been quite a big, raised the alarm on China over the years, given that we face a much bigger threat, and by the way, our close ally Israel is also fighting, if not for its life, then, something close to it, we got a lot of other problems. So, the logical deduction from that to me is not to, harangue and the American people, but to say to Europe, wow, yeah, like why don't you spend? By the way, why don't you just spend what you committed to spend 10 years ago? So we have European politicians like the former NATO Secretary General and Danish Prime Minister Rasmussen coming to Washington and lecturing us about the need to spend. And I'm thinking to myself, well, is Denmark spending 2%? The answer is no. Did NATO countries meet their spending commitments or raise defense spending to an adequate level when you were Secretary General? No. Well, remove the mote from thy own eye, friend. Foreign Secretary David Cameron, who, by the way, was the architect of a real soft policy towards China when he was Prime Minister and was responsible for significant cuts to the British military, is lecturing the American people. I mean, the audacity, honestly. The audacity, like people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And this is not because I'm like anti-NATO. I'm pro-NATO. But if you've got something that's fundamentally unworkable and unsustainable, it's going to break down. So, like, to me, I believe I'm a better friend to the Europeans than those who are saying, don't worry about these skeptical voices, just keep shoveling money. No, and over the last couple of years, I've been trying to raise the alarm on this point. And you've had including a lot of leading Republicans from the older generation saying, don't listen to these people who are skeptical. Who is a better friend to the Europeans? I think it would have been better if the Europeans had understood from the beginning that American aid to Ukraine would be limited and time-bound and more focused, which is the argument that I've been making, and that they needed to step up so that if they believe their own rhetoric, they would take commensurate action. But what's disturbing is that they talk a big game. I'll give you an example. Prime Minister Sunak of the United Kingdom. The UK has been sending all kinds of politicians over to lecture the American people about the need to spend more money. His chief of army said a week or so ago, that the threat from Russia required a fundamental overhaul of the British military and possibly conscription. Okay, sounds like the guy's taking him seriously, right? You know what Sunak did? He shot him down. Well, that tells us a lot. So you're trying to get the American people to send $61 billion when we're already in bad shape in a lot of ways? I mean, give me a break.
Elbridge Colby, co-founder and principal of the Marathon Initiative, served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy and Force Development from 17 to 18. He's also the author of the book, The Strategy of Denial, American Defense in an Age of Great Power Conflict. Elbridge Colby, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Larry Nora, founder and CEO of U-Store It, a network of award-winning self-storage facilities in the Chicago area, and a customer of Signature Bank. We've developed over 70 storage centers throughout the city and suburbs, and our business continues to grow. We need a bank who understands the neighborhoods and communities where we are making investments. We found that in Signature Bank. They know this city and its neighborhoods because they are based right here in Chicago. Finding a local banking institution like Signature Bank has been critical to the success of U-Store It, and we look forward to a long-term relationship.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
For armed or unarmed security, average isn't good enough. You deserve more. You need more.
Morrison means more.
Morrison Security. More deterrence and prevention with customized programs that fit your budget. Cost-effective, sensible solutions for all businesses and facilities.
Morrison means more.
More peace of mind, knowing your security guards are well-trained professionals with a track record of getting results and serving exactly your needs. Morrison Security personnel are constantly trained for readiness and are prepared for any given situation that can occur at a job site.
Morrison means more.
More reliability of management for quick and effective solutions at your property. Morrison Security is responsive. They're always available to you.
Morrison means more.
More awareness of any challenges you face with protecting people, property, and assets. For armed and unarmed security, don't settle for substandard or average. Security is too important. Contact them and find out how you can get more. MorrisonSecurity.com. MorrisonSecurity.com.
Morrison means more.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? Well, you need to call QC Kinetics. Hi, it's Amy Jacobson. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids, cortisone shots, surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Well, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and independence. Walk and run, play and live. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. New locations, folks, in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Does your home feel chilly? Utility bills seem high? You wonder if your home is properly insulated? Hi, I'm Roy Spencer of Permaseal. For several years, we've been insulating basements and crawl spaces to make floors warmer and reduce utility bills. Now I'm very excited to tell you we are moving on up to the attic, the #1 source of energy loss in most homes. We are, of course, following the same Permaseal commitment to doing the job right. If you're not testing, you are guessing. So our process starts with a blower door test, which will measure the actual size of the energy loss in your home. Then using thermal cameras, we identify the precise location of the air leaks. We seal those with an expansive spray foam, and only then do we add additional insulation if needed. Bring your house up to code, and more importantly, make your home feel more comfortable and substantially lower utility bills. As always, we provide free, honest estimates by trained professionals. Call 800-421-7325. That's 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38 in our latest installment of Sports and Politics. In America, you watch your favorite team. In Soviet Britain, favorite team watch you. 8:38. Now we check the headlines from Mike Scott.
Outside 36 degrees at 8:32. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East promoting the framework of a hostage release deal. Blinken meeting with Egypt's president today. Meantime, Israel's defense ministry saying the country is now focused on the Gaza Strip's most southern city. Country music legend Toby Keith has passed away at the age of 62. He had been undergoing chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery after being diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2021. As rain continues to fall for a third straight day, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass toured areas of the city severely damaged by mud and debris.
We saw homes that were red tagged, yellow tagged, homes where residents had to evacuate, and homes that unfortunately have suffered incredible damage.
Bass was in Studio City in the Baldwin Hills neighborhoods. The governor of Texas is bragging that border crossings near Eagle Pass have gone from thousands down to just 3 a day. But Congressman Henry Cuellar contends it has more to do with Mexico enforcing their own immigration law.
They're now taking the people off the train so they don't get over here in a fast track, especially if we're going to Eagle Pass.
He says Mexico is also flying some asylum seekers back to Venezuela. Nevada holding its Republican presidential primary today and Republican party-run caucuses on Thursday. This after the Democrat governor and the Republicans in 2021 were fighting over scheduling and procedures. Mayor Brandon Johnson expected to give an update on the migrant crisis in Chicago this morning. Chicago Teachers Union members at 2 charter schools have gone on strike today. Family of a suburban man shot and killed by police in Carroll Stream are demanding to see body camera footage of the confrontation that led to the death of Isaac Goodloe III. And an off-duty Chicago police officer was involved in a shooting in the Calumet Heights neighborhood this morning. COPA says the incident occurred near 95th and Stony Island. The Bulls look to get back in the win column when they host Minnesota tonight. The news service of Jackson Hewitt. It matters who does your taxes. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains why we have a bleak future.
More than ever, teenagers see a bleak future. That's the headline. Now, why might that be? My contention is the left has ruined their lives. The left has ruined this country. It might survive, it might not.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Many church leaders don't seem to realize or understand Marxism has infiltrated the American church.
Letter to the American Church, the riveting new film from best-selling author Eric Metaxas.
They want to silence us.
It's everything that John 10:10 tells us about, where it's the enemy has come to steal and destroy.
There's a war that's raging.
This is the hour of the American church.
Letter to the American Church, streaming February 8th on Epic TV, part of Epic Times. This film is not yet rated.
Looking for top-notch personal protection? The Smith & Wesson Equalizer is here to level the playing field. Easy to rack slide, easy to control ergonomic grip. It's designed for you. With a 10, 13, and 15-round magazine included, size up for better control or size down for easier concealment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to upgrade your safety. Visit your local dealer now. To learn more about the Equalizer, visit smith-wesson.com. Smith & Wesson, empowering Americans. All capacity sizes may not be available in your jurisdiction. Be sure to check your local laws and regulations.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 5 GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements. Changing the world one life at a time.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial and I said, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
It is 8:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And we start in Oak Lawn. 95th Street closed in both directions between Kenton and Kilbourne due to downed light poles from a much earlier accident. Now, ComEd is saying the road should reopen before 11 a.m. Veterans Memorial Toll, we're seeing reports of an accident with a right lane blocked. It's on the northbound side between Fountain and 75th. We're also seeing problems on I-57. Solid traffic between 115th and the Dan Ryan merge. Ryan itself right now is running at 30 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy with morning fog. In fact, to our west, a dense fog advisory is up until 10. Sun and clouds for the afternoon and a high of 45. Cloudy and 36 officially at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Sports and politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance, arrogance, ignorance and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
Yeah, it's another installment of Sports and Politics with Charles Thomas, former ABC7 political reporter and radio talk show host.
And a big Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Big Chiefs fan, sure. St. Louis guy, sure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I started my career in Kansas City, man. KCMO Radio, Mod Country.
There you go.
Yeah, that was
so
me, man.
you must be mourning the loss of Toby Keith.
I remember Tony Keith.
Toby.
I'm not
Toby.
an aficionado, but I
do
remember he does a lot of work he did a lot of work for Tunnels to Towers.
Yeah, he did a lot of work for troops, and yeah, exactly. It's a great American loss. Toby Keith, 62, pretty young, stomach cancer, terrible. So you're Kansas City Chiefs fan. You're a long-suffering White Sox fan like myself too, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm suffering through this one. But I don't know.
What would you think if the White Sox or the Kansas City Chiefs monitored Charles Thomas's social media postings to decide whether or not Charles Thomas would be allowed in the stadium?
Whoa. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, serious. I mean, and this is not happening in Soviet Russia, pardon my Yakov Smirnov. In the UK, a report by an outlet that stood up to do reporting that journalists used to do, like Cheryl Atkinson needs to go on her own and set up her own shop, and James O'Keefe's guerrilla reporting and that sort of thing. This is a report by an outfit called the Free Speech Union on the Premier League in the UK, which I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure John
Big
Cass
football, soccer league.
Yeah, John Cass could explain it to us maybe. Anyway, and it's the story about Lindsey Smith, who's a fan of the Newcastle United soccer team. Listen to this.
My name's Toby Young. I'm the General Secretary of the Free Speech Union, a mass membership public interest body that stands up for the speech rights of its members and campaigns for free speech more widely. In the 4 years since I set up the company, I've come across some pretty appalling examples of private companies punishing their employees and their customers simply for exercising their lawful right to free speech. But the most egregious example I've come across so far involves the company in this building, right behind me in Paddington, the Premier League. If you think the Premier League isn't interested in the political views of football fans, think again. We've discovered there's a secret intelligence agency embedded in the Premier League whose job it is to spy on football fans, to monitor their social media accounts, to find out if they're engaging in wrongthink. And if they are, that agency passes on that information to Premier League clubs, and those fans can find themselves banned from the stadiums. This is the story of the Stadium Stasi.
The Stadium Stasi. And it sounds, conspiratorial black helicopter stuff until you meet Lindsey Smith and hear Lindsey Smith's story.
So when did you find out that Newcastle had placed you under investigation?
It was the 1st of November. There was an email from the security complaints saying that I was under investigation for a hate crime, and for that reason they'd had to suspend my membership.
And when did you find out exactly what this hate crime was that you'd supposedly committed?
And eventually they gave in and said, sent me an email saying that I'd posted on social media things that could be seen as transphobic. So that was pretty much all I got,
But what you'd said wasn't what people would normally consider hate speech, let alone a hate crime. You'd said things like you didn't think trans women were women, you didn't think if you were born with a penis that you could self-identify or become a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much. I said trans women are men, and I said I'll be able to say I never stood by that and never accepted it. And that's another one I was questioned for. So,
given that you hadn't said anything that would normally be classed as hate speech, presumably you thought that it'll be cleared up and it'll just go away. But what actually happened?
I was banned for the rest of this season and the next 2. So
just to be clear, because you expressed your gender-critical beliefs on Twitter, Newcastle has banned you for the rest of this season and for 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Could you imagine looking through the social media posts of all the Bears fans and making determinations on whether or not they're going to be allowed at Soldier Field or Arlington Heights Field or wherever they may play based on what they say about the political issues of the day, local, federal politicians, whatever. I know we have a First Amendment and the UK doesn't, but I mean, they have sort of a right to free speech that's ingrained in their culture, just like the rest of the West, and yet that is being chipped away at rather rapidly, and it involves a lot of parties. The government is outsourcing because all of these civic and cultural institutions are folding into the state. They can outsource it, and not just to big tech companies, sports franchises, corporate America.
Well, you know, it's happening here. I mean, we're on the leading edge of it, certainly, in terms of canceling people for what they what they believe and calling certain opinions hate speech. That's boy, who makes the determination what's hate speech?
The Premier League
Right.
and their spy agency does. That's who does. And not to mention just that's being frightening enough, but the idea that that hate speech is telling the truth, that trans women are men. That's what Lindsay Smith posted. Trans women are men. That's true. That's true. That's a true statement.
It's true. Well, that's true to you, but
it's
you're saying
true.
that now, but you could be accused of hate speech by saying what you just said.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, first of all, I've already banned myself from every soccer match on the planet, so I'm not worried about that. And frankly,
I'm already banned too, but
yeah, I banned myself from Chicago sports too because it's so bad and it's so not worth the hassle. But anyway, I digress. That's of course not the point. Listen to this last part. The file that was compiled on her. I mean, can you imagine what? I hope Free Speech Union gets more into this, and I hope there's frankly a look-see, because you think this is beyond the ken of Roger Goodell and the NFL with all of their political propaganda. Major League Baseball that moves the All-Star game from Atlanta, over their phony offense of the election reform in Georgia because Joe Biden called it Jim Crow 2.0.
And it turned out to be the largest turnout in Georgia in history after the law was passed.
But, I mean, do you think this is beyond the ken? I mean, remember, we just had the Twitter files. What Taibbi and Schellenberger are reporting about this new cyber threat intelligence operation between the UK and Britain, between the U.S. and Britain, ironically enough. So you think this is beyond the ken for the government to outsource this sort of thing to enforce their nomenclature and cultural mores in this country? It's not. We don't have anything to do with it, just like they said with the Twitter files. Listen to this. Listen to the file. They could file a file on this, nobody, I mean, and I don't say that pejoratively, just this regular British citizen who lives a few miles from the stadium. This is her team, goes to the local bar, all this stuff, and now she's afraid to live in her own neighborhood.
I even said to them on the phone, I said, my political views have nothing to do with you, nothing at all to do with you. And they've just kind of laughed me off and gone ahead and done it anyway. So it doesn't matter what I've said to them, because I've been ignored all the time. Like, everything I've said has just been ignored or batted away, or I've been made out to be like I'm lying. So.
And one of the really shocking aspects of your case is that you got back a cache of documents, including quite a big file that had been compiled on you by some shadowy spy agency connected to the Premier League, which had an extraordinary amount of detail about your life in it. Just tell me about that and how you reacted to that.
That just had me sick to my stomach. And to be fair, I didn't even see that immediately, because when I originally got it back, it was the emails I was interested in. So it wasn't until a few days later I actually looked through the rest of it and I saw that Premier League report. And they basically referred to me as a target. They've tried to find my identity. They've tried to find where I live. They even went as far as to get screenshots off my Twitter. They searched in the search bar, "I live," to find anywhere I've said where I live. Took images of me where I used to walk my dog behind my house. Got Google images of the church there and the park that's there. I mean, it's horrible. Like saying I've got ties to Whitley Bay because I work down there. I just don't see what any of that has to do with any of it. And I don't know who's seeing that information, you know? Like, I only live down the road. It's really quite frightening because I don't know who's seen it now. I don't know who knows where I live or knows where I walk around, you know? Anyone could be waiting there. Anyone, and it is quite frightening. Like, I don't feel safe walking around where I live anymore because I don't know who's around, who's seen anything. It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, the lives of other stuff come to life. Well, of course, it's based in East Germany, which also came to life. That was real world too. But now this is, we're revisiting it. I don't know how else to describe it.
And there are people actually doing the work. They're sitting in front of a computer screen doing the work. Isn't that amazing? Being paid for it, probably. I'm sure they're being paid for it.
Sure.
That's incredible. And they're not the cops. They work for the Premier League. The Premier League actually pays people to do this. Would the NFL do that? Would Major League Baseball do that?
The NFL has its own investigative arm. I mean, you know, they're dispatched when you have a case like, you know, the infamous case of Ray Rice, and then all the remember all the arguments about, well, they looked into it and they had this, and then Goodell made one decision, then it got out, and then he, under public pressure, he made a different decision. I mean, yes, I mean, these are, you know, obviously multi-billion dollar on an annualized basis revenue leagues and teams. They have the resources to do whatever they want. The question is, who gives them the license to do this sort of thing?
To a fan.
It's astounding to me. Yeah. Rick in Downers Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, this wokeism thing is getting completely out of hand. It's going to have to come to a head soon. But I just want to understand this. If I say something that the soccer league doesn't like, they will ban me from seeing soccer. And what's the problem again with that?
Yeah, right. I got it. Yeah. Insert your soccer joke here. I'm all for it. Will and Skokie.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, you got to remember, soccer is the way that Europe avoids all these wars that they've had for centuries. That's how they fight back and forth, just through soccer leagues. I've actually been in Britain where they've had a soccer match, and there was a riot that broke out with the soccer hooligans. And maybe they're just trying to find out people who are soccer hooligans and, you know, coming in and smashing things up. Although I don't put the woke stuff, you know, out of the way. So anyway.
Well, yeah, thanks for the call. Right. I went to a fight and a soccer match broke out. Yeah. The looking for soccer hooligans. Well, how does that explain the case of Lindsey Smith? It doesn't. Posting. And they gave her, she got a copy of the file that was sent to her, I guess, by the team, by that Newcastle, whatever it is, soccer club. So it was about the social media post that she described. What does that have to do with soccer hooliganism? Kevin, Austin, Texas.
Sounds like Ted Lasso has become Ted Mussolini. I heard that the Andy Crane ushers are going to start wearing brown shirts instead. Instead of asking for your ticket, they're going to ask for your papers.
Dan and Charles in for Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
This President's Day, honor the legacy that shaped America with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. At AMAC, we celebrate the courage and leadership that built our nation. In honor of President's Day, enjoy our exclusive sale. Become a 5-year AMAC member for just $35. That's right, $35 for a 5-year membership. As a member, enjoy benefits tailored for mature Americans, resources, exclusive discounts, trusted news, games, sweepstakes, and a powerful voice for your rights. Join us in honoring our nation's leaders. Visit amac.us/president for this special President's Day offer during the month of February. Seize the opportunity to become part of a community valuing the experience, wisdom, and principles that make America strong. Head to amac.us/president and secure your 5-year membership for $35 today. AMAC, better for you, better for America. Happy President's Day from the Association of Mature American Citizens. Visit amac.us/president now.
QC Kinetics patient Robert Patterson, a veteran and business owner, struggled at work and in the gym with chronic agonizing shoulder pain.
Those injuries just continue to nag, and if you don't treat them, they just get worse. And I just kind of abused my body for a long time, and it finally had said enough is enough.
That's okay, because QC Kinetics tells your pain, hey, enough is enough. Their regenerative treatments bring you relief by helping restore and repair damaged tissue with no drugs, no downtime, and best of all, no surgery.
I was able to exceed the goals that I had previously attained in the gym. It was absolutely worth its weight in gold, so I could continue to live life without limitation.
Ready to get lasting relief from your joint pain? Call QC Kinetics to learn more about how natural biologic treatments can get you lasting results. Call now. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Opportunity is knocking. The price of oil is predicted to rise in the next few years.
With conflict in the Middle East and around the world, investing and diversifying in U.S. oil could be an ideal opportunity for accredited investors.
Accredited investors with at least $50,000 to invest. Take a look at the offerings with Freedom Crude, a U.S. company that's opening up new drilling projects that you should consider.
Did you know that when you invest with Freedom Crude, your investment is a 100% write-off in the first year? Find out how you can create passive income and wealth for many years to come.
Call Freedom Crude to find out more on how you can start taking advantage of a unique opportunity to invest in U.S. oil as prices are predicted to continue to rise.
Don't stand on the sidelines any longer. It's the perfect time for you to invest in U.S. oil.
Call Freedom Crude, 800-549-1985, and get a free information and investment kit. Call 800-549-1985. That's 800-549-1985.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Be sure to schedule your health assessment with my friends at Low T Center. They offer the convenience of physician-monitored, self-inject, at-home testosterone treatments with an average payment of $150 a month cash pay, including labs and medication. If you don't live near a Low T Center or just need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. That's Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial and I said, what the heck, what do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Charles Thomas in for Amy J. And just talking about what's happening across the pond there in UK with that Stasi-like Premier League investigating its fans. And another matter, there is, some pushback. I'm sure there'll be pushback to that report and others like it. But there's pushback on other issues, too, including the migrant problem that Western Europe has. Huge rally in Dublin, Ireland, and this was some of it. Listen to the song they're singing. Trying to put Ireland back together. I think a lot of citizens of a lot of Western countries could be singing the same tune.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans want to sing that in the fall.
Indeed. Charles Thomas, ABC 7 political reporter, in for Amy today, and he'll be back with more of his musings and insights on Thursday and Friday. So stay tuned for that. John Cass in tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. We turn it over to Mike for the news.
Possible record-breaking warm weather scheduled for this week. Federal indictment accuses a trio of committing carjackings and murders. And the trial for an ex-senator delayed again.